Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to You Rankin with me. I am your co-host Chadwick Webb, and over here we have my other co-host James Tancock. We have a few guests with us today as well. We have Kerri Webb, my wife, Tato. We have Chris Diaz, and we're all here to rank some Spider-Man. Yay! Yeah. Exactly, Tato. Thank you. Across the Spider-Verse has just come out, a couple months ago or whatever, and we've all seen it, and so I was like, why not just rank all the Spider-Man? So yeah, we have pretty much all of the iterations of Spider-Man plus a couple of just his villain solo movies. So we have like the Venoms and Morbius in there as well. Just for fun. Why not? So it's a clean 13 films that we're ranking here. We've all ranked them on our own as usual.
Mhm.
And, so what we're going to do is we're going to go from our 13 to our 1. So we'll go around, we'll say our 13s, and if anybody says a movie like that's in your top 5 when we're not doing top 5s, so it's like way lower for someone else, just say, wait for it, hold on. Hey, I got that one higher. That's in my top 5. Whatever you want to say to let us know that you have that one much, much higher because you love it so much. And we will wait to talk about that one closer to the end of the episode. Top 5 is sacred, so we gotta hold that to a high prestige. So I will start with my 13. Actually, I don't have it up. Kerri, start with your 13.
Okay, my 13, surprise, surprise, is Morbius.
All right. James, what is your 13?
It's Morbin time.
Chris.
Yeah, it's the same thing, Morbius.
Tato.
And I've yet to see Morbius, but I'll just go ahead and assume that's where I would rank it.
And I knew mine was going to be Morbius anyways, but I forgot about my list. So I have to swap notebooks with the wife here. Mine is also Morbius. So we can go ahead and discuss that one because it's all of our least favorite movie. No, I'll go ahead and start. All right, so Morbius was interesting. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw this one way later. It was actually not that long ago. It was pretty much when I was like, hey, let's rank the Spider-Mans. Might as well get Morbius out of the way. I was like, I know it's a meme. People talking about the Morbs. I know Jared Leto is not a very liked figure today, but he's still starring in stuff from time to time. But I was optimistic about it. I wanted to go in and see if I could like it because I know that there were some like defenders of it. I don't know if they were like ironically defending it or what. I haven't really talked to many people who actually like this movie. But I wanted to, and I just don't think the execution was there to really carry it or make it like anything too special, or make you really care about the doctor's journey, his best friend's journey. The betrayal of Matt Smith didn't really affect me at all. I didn't really care. Nobody really changed throughout the movie that much. It just looked really dark, and the visual effects weren't terrible, but they weren't great either. It's just whenever it kind of looked a little scary, the next scene or the next frame didn't look great at all. So it's just there's really nothing much in this movie that I remember liking. I liked when he was flying in the subway. If I had to pick one thing, I liked that part. That was kind of cool. So you can imagine Morbius as a villain that, or I guess here an anti-hero, that could have been cool had the execution been better, better writing. I think I was sitting there thinking in my mind a way to actually flesh out and just really hone in on these characters and make the relationship between these two characters so deep that when Matt Smith betrays Morbius, you're like, oh shit, okay. But here it just really didn't work for me. Kerri, what do you think about Morbius?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. There's not really much I remember liking in this movie. I think it had a lot of weird plot maybe not entirely plot holes, but just things I think I was like, why would you make that choice to do that in this movie? And yeah, there wasn't much. I don't know. I hate to like just trash on something, but I can't even pick out a moment that I really enjoyed. Maybe the bats were cool, but I can't even really remember.
I've always noticed that, especially like when I debate and stuff, like me and you are not really great at like trashing things. I always try to like approach it from I didn't love it.
There's
kind of
stuff
a
I
deal.
genuinely could sit here and trash.
Like what? Give
I
us
just
one.
honestly I can't even remember a lot of what happened in this movie.
Yeah, it's very forgettable. James, what did you think about Morbius?
Yeah, I think part of this may have been Jared Leto being Jared Leto, like as an actor himself. Like I feel like I don't know if it was just his acting style or if he just tried to like take it too far, or like maybe took it a little too serious. But I feel like it was just a bit too much. I think if I had to pick a favorite part, it was Matt Smith in this movie because I like him a lot. And when he's dancing in front of the mirror, you know, just some of the lines he had, like you could tell he was at least having a good time on this movie set. But I don't know how much everyone else was, so it's bottom of the list, and that's all I really have for it.
It's kind of one of those things to where like that it's such like a dark tone movie that when he does that, it doesn't feel like the silly campiness of Matt Smith dancing really works for the movie because that's not the tone of the movie. It's not a Raimi film. Like that would totally work in a Raimi film, as we'll get to later when we talk about another movie with a dancing character. But Chris, what did you think about Morbius?
This is a film I absolutely hated. Matt Smith, the only good thing about it, I feel bad for Gerard Harris. I think deserved to be in better film than a lot of the stuff he gets stuck with. So he's so good in Mad Men, and he's so good in Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes movies. Yeah, this is awful. This is, people complain about the CGI in Flash, but the CGI in this film makes the Flash CGI look better.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so bad. Spoiler alert from film that came out last year. The Michael Keaton scene, the only time I ever have a mid-credit post-credit scene made me so mad that I wanted to scream because they completely messed up the continuity of No Way Home. It doesn't make sense with how Keaton show up in Morbius universe, because he knew Spider-Man, all of this, but it's just and then they try to do Sinister Six on us again. And we would talk about that film when we get to it later. Another film that tried to do that same idea. Jared Leto is an actor I'd like in Dallas Buyers Club. I like him in Blade Runner 2049, but that's the only time I ever like him as an actor. I have not seen the Requiem
Fight
for
Club,
Dream.
Dallas Buyers Club, all the clubs.
I haven't seen Fight Club. I haven't seen Requiem for Dream.
Babysitter's Club, is he in that? No, Chris, you actually hit, I think, on pretty much most of the great Leto performances. Maybe Requiem for Dream as well.
I haven't seen it yet. So.
Gotcha.
That's not a good. Yeah.
All right, Tato, what do you think about Morbius?
Yeah, no. Okay, I will watch it within the next 24 hours and post on when does this come out? I'll post it later.
Whenever I drop it.
Yeah.
You can post in the comments like your after the fact thoughts about Morbius. Maybe you'll be like, this is actually middle of the pack.
It's entirely possible. I'm going to give it a fair shake. That's what I do.
No, but Tato's coming in here to rank with us in the clutch, so it's okay that you haven't seen Morbius yet. All right, so we're going to go to our 12s because we have a clear bottom movie here. And we'll go to James. James, what is your 12?
Just real quick, is my audio okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I put Spider-Man 3 at 12.
All right.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, I should have wrote down all the movies so I didn't have to. Okay. Chris, what is your 12?
My number 12 might be a little more harsh on it than you guys. The first Venom.
The first Venom. Okay. All right. So no top fives for those two so far. Tato, what is your 12?
Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Okay. My number 12, I don't know if this is a hot take, The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one.
Ooh.
Yeah. Kerri, what is your 12?
My 12 is Spider-Man 3.
How dare you?
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay. Cool. Good job, James. Okay, so all right.
Did anybody have them?
It's
Let's see
only
it.
two for Spider-Man 3, so we'll wait on that one for a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll go to our 11s. Chris, what is your 11?
Speaking of Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 3.
All right, we're about to talk about that in a second. Tato, what is your 11?
Spidey 3.
Oh, God damn it. I hate this channel already. It's like my number 11 is Venom. So we might be talking about that soon. Kerri, what is your 11?
My 11 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay. All right, so those are our 11s. Wait, James, did you say your 11 yet?
My 11 is Amazing Spider-Man.
The first one, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so not too far between us and The Amazing Spider-Man. Let's talk about Spider-Man 3, and James said it first. So, James, why don't you start?
Oh, yeah. So this one, I think it just got a little bit too bogged down, like the side stories and how many kind of separate plot lines were going on. I'm trying to rack my brain about superhero movies that were done with this many villains in it, kind of before this one. I don't really know how many tried to include this many, but I just feel like it didn't work. I didn't like how they went about Venom. I think everyone kind of isn't really a fan of Topher Grace's kind of version of that or his casting for that. And this one's I think just too much else in some of these other movies that kind of outshadowed this one. But Spider-Man 3 is just not one of my favorites.
Yeah, definitely. Chris, what did you think about Spider-Man 3?
I think the best thing about it is the Sandman burst scene, with Sandman King. That whole thing is phenomenal. Everything else is very below par. Tobey Maguire, his voice acting as Spider-Man in this movie, to be honest, he is so bad in this movie. Dane Franco is awful in it. I don't like what they do with Harry in this movie that much. I think him playing dumb, really stupid, her forgetting memory. The Butler did it thing really stupid. I hate MJ. I don't like that relationship at all in this series. And this is what she is. Yeah, J. Jonah Jameson and the Sandman stuff are the only good thing about the movie that I like. Everything else is just the less said about Topher Grace, the better I feel.
Tato, what do you think?
Yeah, not super fantastic here. Just pretty, just a miss. Honestly, just not great. It's not 100% without redeeming qualities or anything like that. It's not like Son of the Mask or anything like that atrocious, but it's just not good in a universe where we've gotten just a ton of great movies about this guy.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I definitely disagree with all you guys. We haven't heard what Kerri has to say yet, but it's just I've always been a huge Sam Raimi fan ever since I saw since I saw Spider-Man, but then the Evil Deads. I don't know. It's just been a big thing for me, as I really love Sam Raimi and his films, especially this series, as you'll see in my ranking will reflect my love for the Raimi films. It's not all 1, 2, and 3 here or anything like that, but they're all higher up. I always have thought that the third one is troubled, but not bad. I've always thought it was a pretty good movie that I really enjoy every time I watch it. It does not come up to the same level as the first two in that series of films, but I like it a lot more than a lot of the other ones because Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man. He'll always be that for me. I love the Harry redemption arc kind of a deal. I love the relationship between Peter and MJ, and Kerri and I were even talking about how a lot of the relationship writing is really good in the movie, and you get a lot of that it's like Peter kind of hitting rock bottom after getting this whole big head about being Spider-Man. It's that's kind of the next level that it would take, whereas you decide to become the hero and then you end up saying this town loves me, and then you become so arrogant that that's kind of like what the symbiote kind of harnesses and gives us Bully Maguire, which is one of my favorite things in Spider-Man like movies is Bully Maguire, because I just think he's so funny. I just love I know it's like some people say it's so bad it's good. Some people say it's just bad. I just think it's good. I just think it's really cool. The way he is like emo Peter Parker. I love the dancing. It's just like really like Raimi like camp for me. So like when you get into the jazz club, it's like, can you dig it? And doing his dancing. And that's the thing is I think that a lot of people when they watch like these films, they don't want to see things like that because it's not like they're going to see a Sam Raimi film, they're going to see a Spider-Man film. So for me, because I love both, it really, really works. Topher Grace isn't the best, but I like him more as like when he's just Eddie Brock and not Venom. As soon as he makes, I think a lot of the Venom stuff, when it's not just him showing his face as Venom, when it's like a lot of like Venom like coming out and attacking people, it's actually kind of scary. And that's really what Sam Raimi does well as horror in the franchise. And yeah, no, Chris, I agree with you 100%. I think Sandman is pretty much the best part of the movie. I love his whole arc. It's so deep, and people who do hate this movie, I think if they had given us more Sandman, or maybe just like focused on him a lot more than him just being kind of a side villain, I think people would have liked it a lot more. But yeah, I think the direction is still all there. Like all of the big set pieces they did to melt Sandman with the water and stuff like that. So you can really tell that they were really trying to make a really great big third movie. And while I think it's good, I agree it's not like the best of the best. That being said, Kerri, what do you think about Spider-Man 3?
Yeah, I'll say actually, watching this is the third time I've watched it, and I've actually liked it a little bit more each time. I think mostly because the parts I hate most are the cringy parts, and they get a little bit less cringy each time because you know what to expect. But that said, I think that and Topher Grace are maybe the worst parts of the movie for me. Like the dancing scene, I even can almost get behind, but it's mostly the stuff like where he looks in the mirror and he like pulls his hair down. Just like,
Hey, I'm jealous.
I think
wishes.
it's a level that's like that is different from anything else in the franchise. There's definitely some camp throughout the franchise, but that's like on a level that's almost like a completely different movie or completely different style. So it just takes me out of the movie.
I think it meshes a little better for me, so I think that's why I like it a lot more.
Yeah, I think this is not Topher Grace's part. He's done well in like so many other things, but I think this just maybe it's also the way it was written. I don't know. And the thing with when he is Venom and then they have his face and like the weird crooked teeth, that was a weird choice that they made to do.
They really could have just like had it be a little bit shorter and just have just have Peter having his inner struggle. I don't think you need Eddie Brock at all.
Chris said it that there's just too many storylines in this movie. Like you have Sandman, you have Venom, you have Gwen Stacy, you have Harry, and there's just a lot going on. I think, like you said, Chad, if they had maybe focused more on like Sandman, that would have been better. The relationship stuff I do really like. I think the relationship writing in this is really strong and realistic. But that said, the stuff with Harry is just a little bit odd. I like the way it ultimately ends between Peter and Harry, but just like Harry and MJ, and then the whole amnesia thing is a bit.
Yeah, but that kitchen dance scene is pretty awesome, isn't it?
And you had the whole butler did it thing. Like, the butler knew about the father, and like,
all right.
And I don't think Gwen Stacy is done very well in this movie either. Yeah, like mostly from like a writing perspective, I feel like. I think
could have been better.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, even I agree with that. I'm a defender, but I can't argue with that.
And it's tough because you have Bryce Dallas Howard and you have James Cromwell playing the dad, and like you got two really good actors in it. Like,
yeah.
I was gonna say I fucking forgot she existed. Excuse my language. Sorry.
That's okay. You can curse. All right. So
Wait, did James go?
James started with.
Yeah, started. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So that's okay. How many votes for Venom so far? Just two. Okay, so let's go to our tens, and we will start with Chris for tens, right? Yes.
and it would be Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
All right. Tato, what's your 10?
Amazing 2.
Okay, and my 10 is also.
Oh shoot! Sorry.
It's okay. We got to Let There Be Carnage, Amazing 2, and then mine is also Let There Be Carnage, is 10.
Okay, sorry. I have to. My
What's your 10,
letterbox crashed. I have to pull it out.
That's all right.
My 10 is The Amazing Spider-Man.
The first one. Okay. And James, what is your 10?
My 10 is Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay. All right. So we got any three? Amazing Spider-Man 2 we can talk about?
Yeah, that would be my next one after.
Yeah, we could actually talk about both of them.
All right, let's talk about that Andrew Garfield series. Chris, do you want to start with the first Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah, this is my number 8. I have it above the second one. I don't hate this like a lot of people do. I think there's stuff I do like about it. I really do like Andrew Garfield a lot as Peter Parker Spider-Man. I think he really gets the humor really down well. Like the scene with him and the burglar alone in the car, like my greatest weakness, all of that, like that is Spider-Man to me. That's someone who grew up with it. I saw Dennis Leary really good at Captain Stacy. I saw Emma Stone was fantastic Gwen Stacy. I see she's the second best Gwen Stacy behind Haley Steinfeld. Like I love the relationship between her and Peter a lot. I like the ambiguity at the end that he kind of go back at the apartment, but I think that he's kind of beautiful. I think the first scene of him stringing a Spider-Man really freaking good on rewatch. Like that is probably one of my favorite. Like I think there's stuff I like right in front for the most part as the Lizard. I wish they did his motivation a lot better later on, but like mostly the first half of his stuff seemed very relatable. I thought he was very sympathetic. I like the Stanley cameo, definitely in my top 10 of favorite Stanley cameo. The librarian scene is hysterical. One of my favorite scene during moment of that year. Yeah, just and why am I blanking? Martin, what the guy who played Uncle Ben? Why am I blanking on?
Oh, Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good. Like his voicemail at the end, I thought was a really touching moment. Like the voicemail he left for Peter, like that kind of like. Did they match up the line? Yes, but I think he does give a really good performance. And Sally Field, I think, is a very underrated anime.
He's always amazing.
We would get to Amazing Spider-Man 2 in a moment. Yeah, I would say one of the best moments Spider-Man movie had involving here.
Awesome. Yep. Tato, what do you think about the first Amazing Spider-Man?
Crotch. I really enjoyed a piece. I was and like in hindsight, it's come around to me because I very much was one of those douchebags who was like, Andrew Garfield's too pretty to be Spider-Man. And I held that opinion for a lot of years, man. So Andrew Garfield, I apologize, sir. I've done it on a number of occasions, but I'll get it out here because I know you're watching this one. I really do. This one works quite a bit. Chris pointed out Dennis Leary is really good in it. I like the way he quips better than anyone else, in my opinion, as far as the live action Spideys we've gotten to see. Like I pointed out with that Robert scene, it's just like he's a really, really good Spider-Man. So yeah, I have it at 8. I think it's a pretty good movie.
Nice. All right, I'll go ahead. Andrew Garfield is definitely a pretty man and a great actor. I like him as Spider-Man, especially in the second movie, as we'll talk about, and No Way Home. In this one, I like him too, but I think he's like still trying to like learn how to be Spider-Man. Like I actually kind of disagree. I think a lot of the times like his quipping kind of gets in the way of him trying to solve crimes and stop criminals and stuff like that. It feels like he stops just equip and mess around with them a little too much. Maybe that's the comic Spider-Man. I'm not a comic reader, but I always thought that actually Tobey Maguire, I know I'm a broken actually quips the best because he's doing it as he's saving the thing. So for me, I'm just like, I actually like the more balanced approach that Tobey gives it over Garfield's, especially in the first movie and at the beginning of Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well. I'm like, are you going to actually like take care of this problem, or are you just going to quip the whole time? Like, what is the deal? So I think it does get in the way a little bit, but that's just me. I've only seen them a couple times each, anyways. But also, the thing with this and why I have it at 12 is that I used to think I liked this a lot more, and then on rewatch, I was like, "What is this doing better than like the first Raimi Spider-Man as like the reboot origin for Spider-Man?" It's like, well, I mean, they're trying to give like more like backstory to like Peter's dad and his parents and stuff like that, and then you have just a different kind of Spider-Man, like we talked about the quipping, but also like the thing that Tato had a grudge for so long, where it's like he's pretty, he's like, oh, he's like a cool kid skateboarding, like what? You're supposed to be a nerd, like and they're like, we're trying to do both here. We want him to be a nerd who's really good at computers, but he also skateboards and just cool, and girls like him, kind of a deal. But and I just don't really think the writing here is that much better than the Raimi ones. I think the Raimi ones that have a lot of like poetic like dialogue. I think those are like extremely well written, especially the first two. I know we've talked about the third one a lot, but the first two have a really good writing, and I feel like this here it's like just a step below. And it's just like I just think I'm watching this and I'm just thinking about the first Spider-Man, and I'm like, is this necessary? I think every single thing that happens in this, I'm like, that was done better in the original. That was done better. Like the Uncle Ben dying after the convenience store. I'm like, just remember how emotional it was in the first Raimi Spider-Man movie, and that was like the first one. And so when I'm sitting here, like, you know what? I wish I wasn't watching this and watching Raimi's Spider-Man 4 right now. That's how I feel. So it is what it is. But Kerri, what do you think about the first Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah. So there are redeeming qualities to it. I think the emotional moments still hit. I think the Uncle Ben stuff does still hit. Not as well as, like Chad said, not as well as the Raimi Spider-Mans and the other Spider-Man movies, but I think it is still well done. I think the emotional moment with like Dennis Leary is actually pulled off really well. But yeah, the dialogue in this is just, I think in particular, is really poor. I remember thinking during the movie, like a lot of this was just like very bad writing. The graphics aren't great, and it gets a little bit less excusable given the time frame it's in. Like with the Raimi films, you can kind of excuse some of the bad graphics to the extent there are any.
Yeah.
But for this one, it's a little bit less like, I don't know. It's a little bit more obvious even. But yeah, I don't know. In general, I just, especially how these movies are done, just Andrew Garfield isn't, my favorite Spider-Man. Although I do think
Emma Stone
does a fantastic Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, and the Raimis did it a lot like more practical, I think, too, a lot of the times. That's what Raimi does, is like a lot of practical and CGI blend. I just wanted to throw out there, because I forgot to say, my favorite part of the original Amazing Spider-Man is that school fight scene between Lizard and Peter. Because I just think that's so incredible with them, with him Stanley listening to the, like Chris was talking about, the cameo, I think is really fun. So I just wanted to throw that out there. James, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man, I wasn't even really sold on it the first time I watched it. I kind of agree more with what Chad's going with here. Like, I often do like kind of compare this to the first one, because it's almost like a frame for frame reshoot, just with a different villain and a little bit of, because you got into like the backstory with his parents a little bit. But I wasn't sold on Andrew Garfield the first time. I feel like as Peter Parker, like a lot of like the lines that he had, and even like the line delivery was kind of just like flat and kind of weird. Like when I watched it the second time, I almost like really couldn't believe what I was watching. I didn't see it that way the first time, but I didn't really like the way Andrew Garfield kind of delivers some of his lines in the first one. Like I know you're supposed to be like some like broody teenager type thing, but I think just the way he goes about, just the way he delivers them, just doesn't really work. As Spider-Man, I think he does make a pretty good one. I agree with a lot of like the quips that we've talked about, but I feel like when he's just in the suit, just even like just kind of swinging around, like he's not as like kind of animated and active, like kind of with the other people on the streets. Like in the later movie and even the other ones, they're like, hey, good morning, random citizens, like folks, like that kind of thing. Like I didn't get much of that from him in the first one. So this didn't really sell me on it. I kind of liked the lizard that they did for the villain, but I don't think it was enough to really make it a great movie. So this just wasn't that great to me.
Awesome. And then I think we're on The Amazing Spider-Man 2 now. Tato, if you want to start.
Sure, I'll get started there. But one thing I do want to throw back to, you brought up the Stan cameo from Amazing. The Stan cameo in Spider-Man 3 is fantastic. I had almost incorrectly attributed it to Spider-Man 2 because it's that level of goodness. It's just in the wrong movie. But yeah, I guess one man can make a difference. Enough said.
Yeah, so
That's one of the best Stan cameos of all time. So moving on to Amazing 2. Again, this one's just not super fantastic. Rhino is bad. Andrew got to acknowledge that later on in life. I'm lame. I thought I got a Rhino suit. And yeah, just could have kept going and I think been mid alongside Amazing Spider-Man, but I have it at 10 here, so just not too much to say on that one. I do owe a lot of these a rewatch also. I'm going to have to re-rank, so we'll see if I'm updated.
We all had a lot of time to watch these, and I messaged you like 2 hours ago, so it's understandable. Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 I rewatched for this, and I was actually really excited too because I hadn't seen it in a long time. I saw it in like the theater, and I think I saw it once before I rewatched it, and then I rewatched it, and I don't have it ranked high. It's my number 9. But I have it ranked above the original Amazing Spider-Man, and I think the reason why is just because I feel like Andrew's like really getting more into the groove of being Spider-Man in this one. I really think that the scenes between him and Gwen are like really, really good in this. So there's just a lot of like, if you take like the villains out of it, it's just like a lot of stuff that I actually enjoy watching in this one. And I'm actually trying to, it's not that memorable of a movie, so I still have it low, but I remember really liking a lot of the dialogue in this one. I thought was like written a lot better. Kind of like the struggle to keep their relationship together. She's moving on. The stuff between Peter and Harry, I thought was pretty good. Before Harry turns, and I feel like they did the tragic backstory of Harry Osborn really well before it looks a little cringe as he is the Green Goblin. But before that, I really liked his Dane DeHaan, who we don't see anymore. Was pretty.
He's gonna be in what's that movie that has like everyone in it?
I don't know.
I'll get back to you.
Okay.
I saw a preview for it last night.
You're not going to be in Bobby. You're not in the Oppenheimer. You're not in.
Yes, Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
He's going to be in Oppenheimer?
Yes.
Interesting.
I swear to God, everyone.
That's right. Because we watched that very loud trailer in the theater. They had the volume way up for dialogue.
Name me the whole free movie that had the biggest cast this year so far.
Yeah, anyways, so Amazing Spider-Man 2. I like a lot of the action. I like Garfield in the role. more this time. The relationship stuff is great, and I don't hate Jamie Foxx as Electro either. So it's not the best, but I liked it more the second time around. So I had to rank it a little higher, but not too crazy high. So Kerri, what'd you think about this one?
Okay. Yeah, this one for me definitely isn't the best. I do think Andrew Garfield does a little bit better in his role in this one. I do think the dialogue is better written than the first movie, but that said, I have it lower ranked still because, I don't think Jamie Foxx's performance is great in this movie. Just like the choices, I think there's a reason why he plays pretty much a completely different character in No Way Home. And I don't actually like the stuff between Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy in this movie, just because it just feels like he's so back and forth about whether he should be with her or not and protect her. And then in the end, she does die. So he was kind of right. He probably shouldn't have been with her. I know it's all she makes her own choices and she chose to tag along, but
like a tragic, Shakespearean tragedy.
I think though the worst thing about this movie is they tried to redo Green Goblin, which they could have just left Green Goblin out. It was just done in the Raimi movies. I think a benefit of the newer Spider-Man series are with Tom Holland, are they really, besides No Way Home, where Willem Dafoe comes in, they haven't really touched Green Goblin. And it's weird, Dane DeHaan all of a sudden in the second movie is Andrew Garfield's long lost best friend, when plot wise I don't think it makes sense, because I don't think in the first one he really knew his dad even worked for Oscorp, and to me it's just not as well done. Also, Green Goblin in this movie as in the original Raimi trilogy.
Might have been written after the fact, and also can you blame them for copying one of the best superhero franchises?
It's just there's so many Spider-Man villains, and they already had villains in this movie that they were using. They could have just left Green Goblin out of it.
Yeah, James, what do you think about this one?
So yeah, I think you and I are on the same wavelength here, Chad, with these two movies. I think I did see Andrew Garfield come into being Spider-Man better in this one. I think he was a little more kind of loose with the character. I think he was a little more animated in as Spider-Man himself. I feel like he did a better job as Peter Parker. Also, I think he got his line delivery down a bit better. I think he made me feel like he kind of could be this going forward in the future. I don't like what they did with the Rhino, and to have Paul Giamatti play that character. He's the first 2 minutes of the movie, and then he's in the last 2 minutes, and that's kind of all you get of him. And I was really hoping for a lot more there. I think it was marginally better than the first one. I think Jamie Foxx's reason for almost becoming the way he did or feeling the way he was just oh, no one knows who I am, no one knows my name. It's a little weak to me, to be honest, but it was marginally better than the first one.
I do like the that end scene with Rhino that I don't think a lot of people like, but I like it because the little kid that he helped from being bullied earlier is I'm gonna stop the bad guy, and he's like, kid, you're gonna get killed. That's don't you know?
And nobody does anything watching it. They see oh my.
I understand, but I like that the kid is brave, and then Spidey comes up and he's like, "Let me take over, kid."
Yeah.
But he's really thanks for being so brave. And then I love when he swings the sewer grate at Brian. I think that's a really cool closing shot, even if it doesn't make that much sense. Chris, I still like it. Okay, Chris, what do you think about this movie, though?
So I'm gotten better with my feeling about it. My feeling gone up sometime on this. I think there's stuff that sucks about it. Electro not that good, even though I do like the Chinese space scene. When the first time space Spider-Man, I really did like. Rhino suck. Green Goblin, I really wish they kept it as a cliffhanger at the end of the film rather than try to shoehorn this in. But the moment I love, nobody brought this up yet, but I brought it up with the first one. I think Sally Field is an underrated Aunt May. She did a really great scene where she's telling Pete about his father, and he had, why didn't you tell me before? She said, I didn't want you to stop loving me. And he goes, like, Aunt May, I'm always going to love you. I think that one of the best moments with Aunt May in any Spider-Man movie. I think that really tells how good Sally Field in the world.
Is that when he brings like the milk back or whatever? And then
So it went the whole briefcase thing when she talked about, she gave me the backstory in the second one. And she said, the only reason why I haven't told you is because I didn't want you to stop loving me. Like, stop.
It's she's great in those movies.
Yeah. Gwen Stacy's death scene is really good. It really does hit hard every time you watch it. That shock, this neck snapping moment, just like in the scene I remember watching the first time being shocked. I think Andrew Garfield and Gwen Stacy and Emma Stone's relationship is still great in this one. I think you kind of do I invest in it more than I do with, MJ and Peter in the Sam Raimi one. Zendaya and Peter, I think, up to the tie between the two, the relationship I really do love a little bit more. But yeah, I think that film did overhate it. I think there's great moments, a bad moment. Felicity Jones didn't need to be in it. That was like, okay, we've introduced you Felicia Hardy into this.
Keep forgetting she's in that movie.
Well, that's right. She's in that movie.
Yeah.
BJ
Novak's in the movie for some reason.
Yeah.
Chris Cooper was like, we could have had Chris Cooper and Green Goblin. Like, come on, Norman, he would have been a good Norman Osborn.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, I liked the movie more than rewatch then.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, if you're not Morbius, if it's like a widely hated movie, like sometimes you do watch these movies and you can like pick out things like, oh, I actually kind of like this. This is interesting. Like maybe not the whole movie, but parts of it, and you can actually come to the defense.
I contribute to the writing getting a little bit better, especially that main thing. Like,
all right, let's get on to our 9s. 12, 11, 10, 9. Tato, what is your 9?
Venom.
My 9, I already said, is Amazing Spider-Man 2. Kerri, what's your 9?
My 9 is Let There Be Carnage.
I feel like we're about to talk about Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah.
James, what is your 9?
Venom.
Diaz, what's your 9?
We already talked about Amazing Spider-Man 2.
All right, cool. So let's talk about Let There
What
Be
was your 9?
Carnage. Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Both of you had? Okay.
Me and Diaz had it at 9, yeah.
I had someone had it at 10.
I have it at 10.
I had it at 10.
Where'd you have it?
I had like 3 10s. I had it at 10 too. So okay.
3 10s and 2 9s.
Wait, then Chris, what was your 10?
That was Venom Let There Be Carnage.
That's also my 10.
Okay. I screwed that up. Okay,
That's
thank
okay.
you.
Yeah, cool.
All right,
You're
we're on
all
track.
set? Cool.
We can talk about both Venom.
Yeah. We already talked about my 8 of L, so I good for next.
Let's talk about both Venoms. I'll start with the first one, I guess. Yeah, Venom is interesting. It's not a bad movie. I have it at 11, but it's honestly because there's a lot of great Spider-Man movies, to be honest. I don't mind Venom. I think it's very watchable. It's interesting. I like Tom Hardy as both Eddie Brock and the voice of Venom, and I think the animation on Venom is really good in this, and it gets even better in the sequel. But yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting story. I don't like Eddie Brock as much as a character, though. Like, I get so like, how the hell, he should, like, I don't know, be getting sued right now or something, because like when he takes his wife's like proprietary like work stuff and like steals it and then uses it to like approach the guy that's a part of like a suit or something like that. No, she defends him, and then he goes and he takes that, like, she dumps him like rightfully, and then I'm like, I don't know, I feel like he should get like bigger consequences for doing something like that, because that's terrible. That being said, I don't want to go on a tirade about what he does in that movie at the beginning. Riz Ahmed's okay as the villain. I like him a lot better in other stuff like Nightcrawler. He's okay here. It's really just not that interesting of a story, but I have fun with it. It is mostly why it's at 11. So it's good, but it's not great. I like it. It's fun. Kerri, what do you think about Venom?
Yeah, this I actually have it at number 8. I think I have it the most highly ranked out of all of us. And I mostly that's because I like horror, and it's definitely the most horror-based Spider-Man movie. I do think like Venom's done really well. I love like how Venom and Eddie Brock interact. That's and the like there are some incredible actors in this movie. Like for the actors in this movie, I feel like it should be a better movie than what it is. That said, it is like sorry, very distracted. I think things could have been done better in it. It's not everything I wanted it to be, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. And I'll say you talked about horror in the Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man 2 is the scariest of all the a lot of great horror sequences. James, what do you think about Venom?
Yeah, Venom. I was thoroughly entertained by both of these movies, and I think that's why I put them were Amazing Spider-Man, just because like it didn't seem like the type of thing where the actors were like kind of taking it that seriously, but it wasn't like necessarily intended to be that. I love Tom Hardy, so I'm already going to see both of them anyway. I think he was an interesting choice for Eddie Brock, but I liked the way he portrayed the character. I kind of liked, the lines and the dialogue he had. I like Michelle Williams is awesome. I did a pretty good job in this one. I think it's a surprise at kind of how entertained I was by it. I know the critics went pretty hard on it, but I don't think it was that bad. And I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Diaz.
Yeah, may I be the one person to have it linked very low to my second least favorite out of ranking of Spider-Man movie. I don't know. I just like every time I go back to rewatch this movie, I just hate it more and more. I think it completely missed the point of Eddie Brock and Venom to me. I've yet to see Venom done well. Like I want my Ultimate Spider-Man, I want my spectacular Spider-Man Venom, not jokey, make Venom the most dumbest person in the world. Like, and make Eddie Brock jump into a lobster tank and eat lobster because he. I think the only one good legitimate laugh in the movie is that when he looked like he about to jump out the window and say he takes the elevator to hear Venom go, pussy. That made me laugh so hard. Yeah. And the Stanley cameo was funny, like another good Stanley cameo. I'm rooting for you too. But it's just like with the man, like who I love as the actor gets so wasted. The villain is this, so like they have a good decent setup in the beginning with how they send me off Atlanta Earth and everything. And just it get worse and worse from there. Michelle Williams, you should easily cut her out. To no point in having a love interest. So like she get wasted in both of these movies really well. Okay, and Mr. Chen is funny. Like I'm again, Mr. Chen is a very funny character. I haven't seen pop up. But yeah, I just hate this film. I just like it's the first time I saw it. I had a really bad unfortunate time to do a double feature that day because I saw Star Born earlier that day where I love it. Then I saw this when I was working later that day at the movie theater. Yeah, like I still have yet to like this movie. It's pretty low for me. I have a little bit more positive thing to say about the sequel in comparison.
No worries. Awesome. Tato, what do you think about Venom?
Venom, yeah, it actually really works for me. I'm a Tom Hardy cat, especially anytime Tom Hardy is acting against Tom Hardy. Check out Legend.
Oh yeah.
He's great. Mrs. Chen works for me 100%. She's hilarious. The lobster tank bit works for me. The comedy works for me a lot. So yeah, Venom is pretty solid. I I do have it at 9, but that's just an indicator because I think 1 through 6 to 7 are all pretty great. So 9 is not being that close to greatness is not terrible. I don't think Venom's a bad flick.
Yeah. I would also say my top 8 are ones I really, really like, and then everything after that, Yeah, we all talked about Venom. So, Kerri, do you want to start with Venom Let There Be Carnage?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
This is, I think the same faults that were in the first movie are in this movie. Plus, I don't know. For some reason, Woody Harrelson as Carnage, I just don't. I wasn't buying it. It was a little like the accent was weird, the hair was weird, the whole thing. And I know a lot of criticism of people who read the comics was that Carnage is supposed to be like way more like powerful and more of a villain than I think he gets in this movie. But I think there were still some fun parts to this movie, some funny parts, but I ranked it lower than the original just because, and any of the stuff with Carnage, I was just like, oh, we're back to Carnage. Okay.
All right. Yeah, James, what do you think?
Yeah, I had this one just above the first one. So this was my number 8. I like one as a school. I mean, I get like why people might not have liked the Carnage bits of this because I think if people wanted the more serious, the more powerful Carnage, they wanted the serious Venom. But I was again just thoroughly entertained by this. I think everyone knew kind of what's going on here. I kind of do hope that we like a more serious take on all, but I like Woody Harrelson. I think again, kind of like with Tom Hardy being Brock, he was kind of an interesting choice. From to play a role like this at the end of the first Venom when he's like there's going to be carnage, like you kind of already knew what to expect with these films. Like it's not going to be that much, like you can't set the bar that high for this. But again, I was entertained. I found these films more entertaining than Amazing Spider-Man films, so they were a little bit higher up on the list. And to be honest, I know I talk about these in these rankings a lot for rewatchable movies just because they're short and I like them. I'll probably watch these two, some of the higher ups, but I like both the Venom movies.
Yeah, no worries. Chris.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more positive on this than I am on the first one. I like Woody Harrelson a lot as Carnage. I think it's the closest we got to. It's the closest we get to Carnage, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think he does catch the creepiness. Please Cassidy a lot. I like Venom a little bit more in this. I love the Pride Parade moment with Venom during the Pride Parade. Like that made me laugh hard in the theater. I like the little cliffhanger with leading into No Way Home. I actually like Naomi Harris as Shriek a lot. I think I like their bizarre relationship with Harrison. And he let it nod to X-Men because they a little nod to X-Men, saying, she being sent to a facility, to help out. Yeah, I think that they added that race in the movie, yes. You got Al Capone for Boris Empire, and they had to play Al Capone, and he barely get given a lot to do. And Mr. Chen, it's a funny excuse of Mr. Chen. The convenience scene alone with Venom Possessor, and he say, nobody asked you, talking to Michelle Villain boyfriend. That's why I've seen the funniest scene in the movie. It's just a more guilty pleasure Spider-Man movie than a lot of them. I do enjoy a rewatch. Yeah. I hope in the third one it's another guilty pleasure. I'm praying that it would be like the second one, not the first one.
Yeah, for sure. Tato, Carnage.
Well, Chad, you know where I gotta go first. No, Danny Rojas. Danny Rojas.
That's right.
Yep. So that was a blast. That was a fun little tidbit at the end there. I had fun with it. With him doing the whole explain it to me. The whole gay parable thing I loved. It's just really, really awesome to see it executed that well. So like I said, I love Tom Hardy on Tom Hardy, and then when Tom Hardy has to break up with Tom Hardy, it's a rough shake, but they get back together and in the end everything's okay. Woody Harrelson traded a bad wig for a worse one somehow. In between the post-credit scene and this movie. I don't know how that was allowed or happened. Woody, I'm a big Woody cat, but it really doesn't work for me here. This one is 12, but could go up for me. I only have seen it once, but I could see it overtaking Spider-Man 3, Amazing 2, and Venom probably. Probably not Amazing 1, and most definitely would it not breach my top 7. But for being 12 now, it could conceivably be 9.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually just thinking about that too, Tato, as well. Like, it's at 10 for me now, and I'm sitting here thinking like maybe it should be 9 because I actually liked Let There Be Carnage more on a rewatch, and I didn't think I would because I remembered I was like that movie is. I was at the theater. I was like so short. Like I was in and out of the theater real fast. And I know James said that was like it's like a positive for him. For me, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe like there was like some more they could have put in there to make it more like a full-fledged movie. I mean, it is like I think still like 80 something minutes, or like just barely 90, but it's like it feels so brief. However, what you get in there, I think, is really good. I like Andy Serkis's direction. I like all the visuals with Eddie and Venom, especially at the very beginning when you have Eddie in the background, the Venom face just like coming out of him and like coming out really close up. I thought everything looked so good. Carnage, especially with how they render Venom and just make him look like really cool and realistic. And all the stuff like in their apartment when they're cooking and he's like, food. And, he just wants something other than chickens or whatever. And, he's sitting there cooking and singing in the kitchen. They just like took everything like from the first movie and they said, okay, a lot of this like dark action and stuff like that doesn't really work. So now that we've like established Venom, let's just have a lot of fun with it. And I feel like that's what they did. Because this movie does have a lot of fun stuff. I do like when they like break up and then Venom, is like kind of like fuck you and stuff like that. And then he has to like kind of like figure out how to like find a new host because Eddie's the only one that really works for him. And it's like the kind of bromance broken up, and then they have to get back together at some point to defeat Carnage. And speaking of Carnage, I think the character doesn't like look the best. And I didn't love him first, and I had the same exact thoughts that Kerri did with the character. But upon rewatch, I was like, I think he is pretty menacing. They kind of like have him have a motivation because he, loves that one woman that they took from him. And then they have like that kind of animated like sequence that kind of shows the backstory. Yeah, it's really cool. Actually, kind of reminds me of the Deathly Hallows one from the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Kind of like explaining like a backstory or like history, just doing it kind of animated, or even like Kill Bill. When you have that whole animated sequence that explains things. So it's really cool when movies do that. And I think Let There Be Carnage did that very well. I think that was pretty much my only criticism with it. Other than that, like it doesn't have like this like story that I love or anything like that. So that's why it's still going to be, it's never going to go past 8, but it might be my 9 from now on. We'll see. But I enjoy that one more the second time. All right, we're done with that one. So we're going on to 8s, right? Yeah. All right. I'll start with my 8. My 8 is, this might be a hot take for some people, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Ooh.
Okay. Is that in anyone's 5?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will wait on that. So that's my 8. Kerri, what is your 8?
My 8, we just talked about Venom.
Okay. James, 8.
Yeah, my 8 was Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Okay. Chris, 8.
My 8 were Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay. Tato, 8.
Amazing.
All right. So now we'll go on to 7. Kerri, what is your 7?
My number 7 is Far From Home.
Okay. James, what is your 7?
Also Far From Home.
Chris, 7.
Mine might be a hot take, but the first Spider-Man.
Yeah, that is top 5 for me.
Yeah, that's a way for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Tato, 7.
Far From Home.
Mine's also Far From Home. We're almost all had Far From Home at 7.
Yeah.
I think that's that. Yeah, it feels like it's on its own kind of tier, doesn't it?
Far From Home, my number 6. Or might be between those two. Or something like that.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those to where it's good, but there's a lot of great Spider-Man movies. So Kerri, did you start last with Carnage? Yeah. James, Far From Home.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I think kind of like this is definitely a good Spider-Man movie, and I do like watching it, but there's just too much after them that I think is just way better. I do like. I mean, most about this, I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I like the concept of them being on like some trip, and then all this stuff's happening. And it plays to the title "Far From Home." I like continuation with Tom Holland. I think he makes a good. I think he's kind of like the middle ground between like a good Peter Parker and a good Spider-Man. I like him. I just think there was better movies beyond this one. So this is number 7. It's kind of like Tato says, like kind of tier of its own, and then everything else is just kind of above it. So yeah, not bad, but I like other stuff more.
Nice. Chris.
Yeah, I really do like this movie a lot. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is fantastic, Mysterio. I think I like the Zendaya and Peter thing a little bit more than the Homecoming. I like the Would They Won't They. I like the necklace thing. I like the nod to Tony Stark. I think the way they deal with going through grief. I'd love to see with him and John Favreau, on a plane and talk. I miss him too. Them making the suit together. The beautiful scene. I loved it when he gave Aunt May and Happy. That Peter realizing something going on. Like, I think that the humor worked for me, and I think why the motivation Mysterio wasn't great. I thought he was a really good managing villain in the movie, and that illusion scene alone is like top 5 favorite moment for any Spider-Man movie. Like him that pulling the punch on Peter, right? Tony Stark, all of this, like the guilt trip, and like it's so freaking good. And you had the kid from A Christmas Story make a cameo again, and guys, like I just love this movie, and of course, the biggest surprise in the movie, we see Jane Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons come back, at the end, and like, I never saw her so much in theater till that moment, but like, I just love this movie. I take go up and rewatch every time we watch it, and it's a fun movie. It just made me laugh a lot as a Spider-Man movie. Like,
Yeah, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is the great unifier. I think everybody loves him in that role. Tato, Far From Home.
Yep, like I've come to realize more now, especially with just this consensus we've all hit, that if you are better than Far From Home, you're a great Spider-Man movie. If you're worse than Far From Home, you're going to have some questions. So Far From Home is like the perfect baseline of what a Spider-Man movie is. It gets a lot better, it gets a little worse, but I think it's a really good movie, and I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I like Tom Holland and Zendaya. They work a lot. Happy and May, all the stuff that's been kind of mentioned a lot. The prison scene, the Dutch, is he in a Dutch prison with the football fans?
Oh, yes, the Netherlands.
Yeah. Hilarious. I love those guys.
Spider Monkey.
Night Monkey, yeah. That works. So yeah, it's like I love it. I love AC/DC, or I love Led Zeppelin. Yeah, I love Led Zeppelin is the line. It's an AC/DC tune plan. Yeah, so humor works, and I think Tom is that perfect balance, as has been mentioned, of Peter and Spidey. So yeah, shout outs to that guy, though this is probably his worst film in my opinion.
Interesting. All right. Far From Home, I would, in my opinion, actually count as one of the great Spider-Man films. I really like this one. I've done like a bit of a roller coaster with it. I loved it when I first saw it. I went down on it, and then like the most recent rewatch, I was like, I do love this movie. So it is my second favorite of the Watts trilogy. I do think Tom Holland is a really good Peter and Spider-Man, but honestly, I feel like it took him 3 movies to get there, whereas Toby was there movie 1 for me. That's probably a hot take. I don't know, but that's how I feel. Just wanted to throw that out there because people were
seeing this actual high school kid play Spider-Man is upsetting to me. I'm used to I like my Spider-Man at 32 in high school.
I think that's the thing for me though, is that I'm not like a big comic guy. So like I don't need like my Spider-Man to be like super like comic accurate or anything like that. Like I just grew up with the Raimi one, so like that Spider-Man to me, and anything that deviates from that is just different. I think that's how people feel with like the comics. If you start with the comics, you're like, that's Spider-Man, and anything else is wrong. So yeah, I'm a little bit opposite, but that's just differences of opinion. But yeah, Far From Home, I really like as a film because I don't love Homecoming. I think that one's pretty good. But I think Far From Home was a step above, just like especially with like the characterization, because like I do not like Zendaya in Homecoming, but I love her in Far From Home and No Way Home. I think she gets a lot better as she's no longer this weird, like moody, like I'm just here to watch people in pain. Like who the fuck are you? Why are you in this movie? I don't.
That's like a teenager though.
Okay, I understand. Like she's like better from being that in the other 2 movies. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't like her in Homecoming, but I like her in Far From Home, and I like that relationship and how that builds to No Way Home, and that's why like that Zendaya Tom Holland is really awesome because it builds. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. Period. I love him like as an actor. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. And so to see him in this, like it kind of Jake Gyllenhaal returned to the big blockbuster because he stopped after Prince of Persia and decided, I'm just going to do small indie films now until the MCU is like, hey, why don't you come out? And I think he's great as Mysterio. He's so convincing as like the good guy at first, and then that like flip on the dime where he's like, "Whoo, we got it!" and kind of a deal, and just starts laughing. It's just kind of a really cool like villain reveal in the movie as soon as like Tom Holland leaves after he convinces him to give him the thing that he wants.
Bob.
And then when you find out that all of the big things that are happening are just like projections with like millions of drones or thousands of drones or whatever. I just think it's like all really cool and really well done in that way. I just love him going on the trip to Europe. I think it's like a really cool, and he's trying to balance, trying to be there with them, but also being like the hero. And he almost didn't even bring his Spidey suit, and then Aunt May packed it. And then he's like, what? Why would you pack this? Like,
can I also call out Samuel Jackson's so good in this movie?
I keep forgetting. Yeah,
you've been to space.
Yeah, my favorite. One of my favorite dark humor in any Spider-Man movie when he does shooting everybody with the dot. He said, "The next person that walks into this room will be attending a lot of funeral."
Yeah. Him sitting in the dark room, waiting for Peter is almost like him in the Winter Soldier, sitting in the dark room. But yeah, that's just what he does, right? But yeah, no, I really like this one. It's at number 7, but that's just because there's so many damn great Spider-Man films. Kerri, what do you think about Far From Home?
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you guys have said. To me, this is like in the start of my ranking of Spider-Man films. I think are really, really fantastic. I just prefer them over this one. But like you guys said, this is a very fun movie. I think I haven't read the comics, so like the twist was really cool. Like I didn't see it coming at all. And this is just one, like if I'm doing like a Spider-Man watch or an MCU watch, it's just a delight to watch.
Yeah.
For just for comic things, Mysterio is originally a theater guy. So
Yep.
that's like, so all of his tricks and illusions are like stage props and stuff like that from the original comics. So to update him to a VFX guy is a really sweet nod.
That is
Chad, you know who originally would they play Mysterio and Sam Raimi if they had went to it? Bruce Campbell. They would imply.
Oh my God,
that would have
been
been
cool.
very fun, especially given what Tato just said. That would have been very fun.
Yes, because he would have been like, you know, it was like the oh God, who did he play in the first one?
He was
the usher.
No, the
announcer. The announcer.
Yeah.
The announcer, and then he's the usher in 2, and then he's the restaurant, the French restaurant.
The third one, yeah.
And then Mysterio. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think we're moving on to what, 6, Kerri?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Kerri, what is your 6?
My 6 is Homecoming.
All right, James, 6.
Oh, Homecoming.
Chris, 6.
Far From Home.
Tato, 6.
Spider-Man.
All right. Yeah, it's still in my top 5. My 6 is Spider-Man 3.
Okay. So I think we actually go on to our 5s now.
Okay, so no Homecoming yet?
No, because that's in someone's top 5.
It's in someone's top 5.
It's in 2 people's top 5.
All right, so we are doing 5s now. So James, 5.
I had No Way Home.
Chris, 5.
Homecoming.
Okay, Tato, 5.
Homecoming.
And my 5 is, and I know people are gonna freak out, but it's Across the Spider-Verse. It's my 5.
My 5 is Spider-Man.
No, I thought they were going to. All right, so we could talk about Homecoming.
Yes, and we can talk about Spider-Man
and the original and the OG.
Yeah.
Okay. I mentioned Homecoming first. So I'll start with this one real quick. So I mean, we just talked about Far From Home, so this is pretty fitting. I like Spider-Man Homecoming. I think it's good, but you know, it's also kind of the same deal for me here, where it's like kind of in the middle between the original Spider-Man for me and the Amazing Spider-Man, as far as like an origin story. Like, we know it's not really an origin story because he's already Spider-Man at the beginning. He was Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War. He was Spider-Man before that, so we didn't really get an origin story unless you count this trilogy as his origin story. Like, he wasn't really Spider-Man until the end of that trilogy or whatever. And like, you know, I think you can make a really good argument for that. But he was some sort of Spider-Man in this, still learning. And I think that's kind of like a really cool thing that they added. He's still learning about a lot of this stuff, you know, getting us new suits, trying to aspire to be an Avenger. While he'll help out the Avengers, he's never really an Avenger, apparently. You know, and then he learns to kind of say, you know what, as much as I want to be the Avenger, and you guys I think you might be testing me, but you might be inviting me to be an Avenger right now, but I'm not ready. And I think, you know, I like that arc where he just kind of like learns to decide that he's not ready, and he can actually still just be a kid and be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man without trying to go above and beyond too early. And so, yeah, I like the relationship between him and Ned, Man in the Chair. You know, he has to lie about looking at porn because, you know, that truth is worse than that, apparently. You know, like I said, I don't love Zendaya in this. That has nothing to do with Zendaya as an actress. She's great. But the characterization in this one I don't love. I think they're trying to start her off at like this is her start, and then we're gonna make that relationship and her character a lot better going on. So that's why I just don't love her. I don't love my friends call me MJ, or I think does she say my friends call me MJ?
Yeah.
Like, first of all, what friend? You've never been hanging out with any friends. And also I'm like, really? It's like Michelle Jones, and it's like, I just feel like it's kind of a weak like call out to, oh, I'm MJ, by the way. I don't know. It just never hit me as something interesting or cool. Or I was always like, oh, that's kind of lame that they're trying to pull this whole MJ thing with her. But I do like her a lot better in the other films. The Michael Keaton is fantastic as Vulture, right? And the scene that everybody loves where he reveals to be what's her face's dad, Liz's dad.
Yeah.
Is really cool. That was a really great theater moment, and it's really cool each time as well. And his motivation, you understand. And yeah, it's just a really good movie. I could go on. It's at 8, but you can tell I like it still. I just do think it gets a little bit bogged down in being in the MCU, and you always have to have like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man show up. I know, like, as like a cinematic universe, it's kind of cool and it works, but like as like a solo Spider-Man film, it's like he's got so much help, and it's like, I don't know, it just feels like he's on training wheels too much in the movie a lot of the times. But
literally,
I like him. Yeah, exactly, right. That's right. Protocol. But I do like him trying to like figure out the suit and stuff and talking to it, and that's pretty cool. And when he gets stuck inside of the crate or whatever is fun. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff. It's my number 8. Kerri, what do you think about Homecoming?
Yeah. So I had this at my number 6. Yeah. To me, this is a great introduction to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I know I was one of those people who, when I heard that they were doing a third set of Spider-Man movies, I was like, you have to stop. There's no way this is going to be good. And then Homecoming, I think, proved me wrong for sure, because I do think Tom Holland, like you guys said, he just strikes that perfect balance. And I think this is just a very enjoyable movie, especially for an introduction to the character. I know we got a brief introduction to him in Civil War, and I think that helped. I think it helps that we're not seeing him actually bit by a spider again in this movie. We kind of jump in, and he is already Spider-Man. He's still learning, so it is still like, a first movie, but we don't have to go through those same kind of scenes again that we've seen in the other 2 sets of Spider-Man films. Overall, yeah, the acting in this is great. I think the characters are fantastic. The humor still holds up. So just a very solid entry.
Really good trilogy.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
James, Homecoming.
Yeah, I actually really, really liked this. And I think part of it was just like, I guess some anticipation for me from finally getting like a Marvel story, or a Spider-Man story, like from Marvel itself. I think after having over a decade of Marvel movies, I think with them building up to it, of course, his introduction in Civil War, I think it was great to have like a Marvel-made Spider-Man origin. I think I'm glad that we didn't get another Uncle Ben dying scene, because I think we've all seen that play and we know how that goes. I'm glad we got sexy Aunt May. That was a nice little addition to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marissa Tomei is quite the looker. I think I liked most bits of this. I loved that they still had Michael Keaton survive. I know Marvel villains surviving has never been a thing in a lot of their movies. It's only like a select few here and there, but I like that we're going to get to see much more of him. He makes a great villain in this one. I think, Chad, like you were talking about, the house, the car scene where he reveals himself to be the father of the girl, like it just kind of puts like some tensions there that like only Michael Keaton could really do so well with. I thought it was great the way he went about that. Flash bits, like I like that actor, and I get that like some folks trying to defend it, saying like if it was like this era of bullying, it'd be more of like the emotional, like cyberbullying type thing. He's not going to be some big strong head pushing him in a locker. He's going to be like name calling him, emotional manipulation, that kind of thing. So I think overall that was still pretty solid. I liked how that went. I think I was just glad to get a Spider-Man origin story without kind of Uncle Ben dying.
Yeah, you gotta. I think you just got it works because you gotta love Tony Revolori.
Also,
for
sure.
I think he's a pocket.
Yeah, right. But also it's the reveal is at the doorstep when he opens the door and he's like,
right, okay, yeah.
But the car scene is where he like threatens them, and he's like,
that's true.
So menacing. It's so good in that movie.
Yeah.
The way when he's stopped at the red stoplight, it's red on Peter, and then it flashes to green on Vulture, dude.
Oh my god, it's so good. Chris, did you talk about this one already, Homecoming?
No, I have not.
Go ahead.
I love this movie. This is my second favorite of Tom Holland movies. I think the acting great. The action sequences, like the fairy scene alone, I think on rewatch go up every time. Like watch him pulling this after shift together. I think Tony Stark used really well in this. I like when you rely on a suit that you don't know who you are without the suit, that you don't deserve the suit. That moment when he talked about, I don't know who I am. Like, I think the cameo from all of the other people in the MCU worked better in this than other movies. I like Gwyneth Paltrow showing up at the end, and I like it lead to, Tony proposing to her, in front of the press conference. I think it was a really nice touch. I love bigger cameo and post-credit scene. I loved how they give an FU to the audience with Captain America at the end of the credits going, and the whole let's talk about patience and not everything the way you want it to do. Keaton is amazing. You talk about when you realize the twist, but that scene when he figured out that Peter is Spider-Man in the car, you got watching his brain work, when Liz complaining about it, then that when he does stop him, you're like, does he know? And you realize, oh shit, you know who he is now. And the humor work. There's some really good dark humor in this movie. What happened to the killing of the first Shocker, and he realized I thought that was a gun that that ripped people up in the air and not the vaporizing.
And that was Logan Marshall Green, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie hold up every time we watch it. I guess some people complain. I guess people complain about Tony Stark, but I like the relationship between him and Peter better than it did in Civil War and Infinity War, because I bought it. And that line we go, you can't have this too. You don't know who you are. Like that moment when he does say it to him, like perfect. And also that use of the S-bomb almost being said, but not being said exactly. What the?
Oh yeah, at the end, yeah. When Omni sees him, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we get that glorious F-bomb until Guardians 3.
I know, but that was the perfect use of almost using the F-bomb, but not going right.
It was really good. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so we already said 6 and 5.
3 villains. Did I talk about Homecoming?
No.
Did you not? I'm so sorry.
You're good, buddy. No, I didn't remember either. It's all good, Ski. So yeah, Michael Keaton, we've all given the huge shout out to as deserved. I think we all agree probably that there are 3 top tier live action Batman or Spidey villains, and he's one of them. It's Michael Keaton. That's why I said Batman. So yeah, Homecoming and let's see. Did I have another thing? I forgot. That's fine. But yeah, for me, Homecoming and Spider-Man, Tobey's original, are real any given Sunday. So whereas I think Spider-Man Far From Home is its own tier, I think these 2 are very much a tier of their own. And I think we're all kind of in a somewhat of a consensus there too. So I was curious to see how it goes when we talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah, and we're talking about Spider-Man now. Kerri, do you want to start with that? The original Spider-Man.
Yeah, I can start with that. This is in my top 5 on rewatch. It still holds up. It's a fantastic film. It's just a little bit lower because Spider-Man 2 and the stuff I have ranked above it for me just like completely knocks it out of the park. But this is every time I watch Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, I'm just like, yeah, he is Spider-Man. And even from the first movie, I think he just does the character so well. He's so genuine. And for a first Spider-Man movie, and for a time when superhero movies like weren't what they are today, it was just fantastic. I can't remember if I saw this one or the second one like in the theaters with my parents, but like this is a time like my parents were not people who watch superhero movies or whatever, and I think it was still like a must watch.
Nobody really did at that time.
Yeah, at that time nobody really did. I feel like this was, one of the first movies that made it clear that these movies could be successful. They could be deep and meaningful, and a lot of fun, and have just great action. Willem Dafoe is amazing in this as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. James, Spider-Man.
Yeah, so I had Spider-Man number 4, and it's just a fantastic Spider-Man movie. It's just so good all around. I think out of pretty much all the performances, Tobey Maguire, he's always going to be my favorite Spider-Man. I do feel like even if these were released like in different orders, like if we got like the Amazing Spider-Mans in the 2000s and then Spider-Man in like 2010, I think it'd still be Tobey Maguire. I just the way he plays Peter Parker, like when he plays Spider-Man. I do think in the first one, his spider-isms do kind of fall a little flat, like I mentioned with Andrew Garfield in the first Amazing Spider-Man. Like I might have to see it again to make sure, but I feel like there wasn't that much like crowd interaction. Like he wasn't like kind of addressing the people like as he was kind of swinging by. But I think the movie was trying to like find itself still. And for the first one of more or less of this kind, at least on this scale, I can forgive it. But Willem Dafoe is amazing in this movie. His performance like really, really kind of spoke to me. Like he just did such a good job as a Green Goblin. There's just a lot that I absolutely love about this movie.
Perfect. Yeah. Chris, Spider-Man.
So I'm a little bit low on this than you guys. I do like this movie a lot. But we watched stuff that bothered me does bother me. The CGI at times did not hold up well when we watched, especially from the 2002. Defoe is great, but he does get a little bit overacting at times. As someone who loves acting a lot, it does bother me. I don't love Kristen Dunst in this movie that much. Like, I've never been a big fan of her MJ at all. Like I think, and some of the you talk about bad lines. There are some really bad lines in this movie. I love you and your shirt. Cinderella joke. Like a couple of the extra get really distracting and annoying at the time. All of the people on the street and stuff. They're like random line we said. Just for Brooklyn, when they finally start Green Goblin at the end, it's just like, okay, this made me maybe like too much campy for his humor. Like, and I think I liked it better than Spider-Man 2 with the way he does humor. I think J. Jonah Jameson's fantastic movie. I think that when the humor really works, it's just with J. Jonah Jameson. And I like that he did it give away Peter, when Green Goblin attacked. The Uncle Ben stuff is great. I loved Great Paracon, Great Responsibility scene. Like, it just a cheesy that take me out of the movie a couple of times, especially with the extra, all of the people in the street, the people on the bridge at the end. Like, just a random line means that it's just like, it's just too much. I prefer Spider-Man. I prefer Homecoming the way they use the people on the street better than the way they do it in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. Like, the joke come natural and more like not too stupid or too like cringe-worthy at times. Like. And Tommy Wright is good. I like him better in No Way Home. I think that his best acting as Spider-Man Peter Parker. Like, I think his over-crying when Uncle Ben died a little too much. Like he really going for the camera, like he wants to win the Oscar type moment there. Like. So yeah, I like this movie. I don't love it like a lot of you guys do.
Yeah, no worries. Definitely. Tato.
Yep, I do love this one, even though I have it at 6. Like I said, these two could flip-flop any given Sunday. Saw it really, like, once upon a time, I had a theater in my crap shack town of 2,000 people before they failed to get Deathly Hallows Part 2 opening weekend. Good job on that. So, that aside, I had a pretty solid time with this one. Fly, go up, go. All that fun, real good, comic-y, good stuff. It was the beginning of the good comic book age, like kind of was started in the 90s. Like really 98 Blade is one of the, like the first really good comic book movie kind of. Other conversations to be had about the goodness of other early 90s movies and stuff like that. But yeah, so this and X-Men were the ones that really gave us kind of what we have now. So I'll always give it the huge props for that. Willem Dafoe, fantastic, as has been mentioned. Wrestling gimmick, hilarious. Macho Man Randy Savage. How has no one here said it yet? Bonesaw is ready. Let's go.
We could go into my complaint about maybe being too over the top at times. Some people.
No, it didn't age well. Did you know what Drew Husband make that for you? Yeah, so what if you did, man? It's okay. But yeah, like I said, this movie is a blast. My joke at Toby being 32 in this movie aside, he's really good. So yeah, and the beginning of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, the omniversal being.
Yeah, a lot of great points here. I adore this movie. It's like it's like the first Spider-Man movie that like anyone ever talks about. Kind of changed the game. I mean, you did have Blade and like X-Men and stuff before, but I just think like this was probably like the first great one, in my opinion, because I don't love the original X-Men. I like it, but I don't love it like on the same level as I do Raimi's Spider-Man here. And like people talking about like especially like that wrestling scene and stuff like that, and Chris saying it's over the top. I'm like, guys, Raimi's been doing over the top since the original Spider-Man. Like,
but when it comes to his other movie, he doesn't have an extra say printing line after printing line. Like
he definitely does go really hard in the third one with it, but he's been doing it since the first movie. And if you look at like other Raimi films like Drag Me to Hell and Evil Dead 2, it's just what he does. Even like Doctor Strange 2, like is a lot of like really crazy campy stuff. But yeah, I adore Tobey Maguire as this character. I think he blends the two together. Whereas like Tom Holland's still learning the whole time for all three movies, and then Andrew Garfield is too cool for school kind of a deal, kind of Spider-Man. Even though he does, a lot of people like the way he quips. I think when Tobey doesn't quip as much, which I actually prefer when he just quips a little bit, like the whole, what was the line, Tato? Did your husband buy that outfit for you? Or
when they cut out on TV.
It's like, kind of problematic in today's thinking, but it's still him quipping and the, here's your change. Just all this stuff, throughout. Like he's got a lot of really good singers, but it's just not as frequent, I think, as people might have wanted. But yeah, I think he really captured the essence of with great power comes great responsibility. He's always conflicted about this, trying to get the girl and then figure out can he keep the girl, can he actually do his I'm actually going more into Spider-Man 2 right now, but he definitely hits it with becoming the hero in this movie. And I love him in the suit. I love Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson. But like I said, I don't come from like a comics background, so this was just my first take on these characters, and so I just love them together. I think they're I think they're even better. Like the line that Chris didn't like, when they're just talking outside, like that scene, I just love when he's just like basically like kind of like as the kids say today, like simping. Over Mary Jane Watson. I love how he's kind of like, waiting for her and, and stuff. And I just feel like it's a really good romance, especially in the first two movies. I don't know about the third movie. It gets a little different. Like they're doing.
I cried like a baby when you were Cinderella, Peter, first grade.
I love that part.
I didn't even mention the worst part of Spider-Man 3.
You mean?
Yeah, oh I know. But the upside down kiss in this movie is fantastic.
Fire.
For iconic moments.
MTV Kiss of the Year.
Right? and it even plays into the second one and the feelings between them and stuff like that. So yeah, this is a perfect like 2 movies, but like the first one just like really hits it. The only thing that I cringe every time when I watch this, and it's a little bit too comic booky, is when Goblin throws the grenade and it blows a guy into an actual skeleton.
That why I was saying the CGI do not hold up well to this day.
They do the same thing in Home Alone 2 Lost in New York when Marv gets electrocuted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, you're
Yeah.
going too
Yeah.
silly. But that being said, yeah, everything else I think is fantastic. I love how Goblin basically kills himself and impales himself, and then it begins this whole Harry arc where he,
Don't tell Peter. Oop, I mean Harry.
right, exactly. Great trivia moment there. But yeah, it's just a classic. I love it. Raimi just knocked this one out of the park. Even better than the second one, but this one, yeah, it's so freaking good. I could talk about this all day. Kerri, did you already talk about this one?
Yes.
You did.
I started.
All right, and I ended. All right, so we're going. That was my 4, by the way.
Okay.
Did we do 4s?
Nope.
Let's go through 4s. That was my 4. Kerri, what's your 4?
My 4 is Spider-Man 2.
A little bit higher for me. James, what is your 4?
Actually, I had Spider-Man number 4.
That's right. Chris, 4.
Yep.
I have a Kerry here. I have Spider-Man 2 in my number 4.
Tato.
Spider-Man 2.
Okay. So we're going on to 3s, or we're talking about Spider-Man 2
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 here. All right. James, do you want to start with Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Spider-Man 2 actually at number 3. I think that Alfred Molina as Doc Ock will probably be one of my favorite villains probably of all time. He just does such a great job. I love the story behind it. I think he does a great job when he's climbing up the building and the tentacles like crashing to get Aunt May or whatever. Like that's one of those kind of like suspense jump scary type things I think we've talked about Raimi being so good at. I think that's just gonna be one of my all-time favorite bits. I know we talked about Keaton being a pretty notable villain, but I think Doc Ock's probably my favorite one. That was my favorite part of this. I don't know. I haven't mentioned this about the other two, and I'm surprised I didn't, but I'm going to talk about James Franco for a little bit. I don't know I feel like, because I mentioned this, Chad, in our Planet of the Apes films, but I feel like, again, in this one, I'm seeing it too much. He's just a little bit too kind of flat with his like acting and his line delivery with some of his facial expressions. I think particularly in the first one, I guess I can't really recall that much about him in the second. And he did okay, I think, as Harry in the third one, but I feel like he kind of doesn't help it that much. Just because I feel like he's kind of like two-dimensional, maybe it's a little bit flat in some of these movies. But that aside, Spider-Man 2, I was surprised to like it more than the first one, but this was a fantastic sequel. And like I said, I think Doc Ock will be one of my favorite performances of all time.
Hell yeah. Chris?
Yeah, this is my favorite out of Raimi's Spider-Man movie. This and my number 3 could switch any day as we watch. But I love this movie. I think Alfred Molina is still the best villain out of all the Spider-Man villains up to date so far. I think his arc is so tragic, so sympathetic. He's threatening. He's funny a little bit. You know, the whole thing about the poetry, him getting defeated that fight. Really funny street moment. Shout out to Donna Murphy, Madagascar, playing his wife. Like, that kind of little nature is there. Love the actress. Love that the Rich into the words on Broadway, where I saw her in New York, and then Madagascar. And the wife here. And yeah, J. Jonah Jameson, this is probably his funniest stuff. You know, his quote at the end where the wedding get ruined, and he just goes, you know, I would never get that trivia right there. But
it's caviar.
Caviar.
Yeah.
That line, like,
don't open the caviar.
Yeah, yeah, that line, the scene with him and Peter, him coming up with the Doctor Strange reference there made me laugh so hard. Like, this movie hold up well. My favorite Aunt May moment is the scene when she talked about, that whole speech she gave. A hero can be anybody, like, moment. Like, I think that's the best fighting in any Spider-Man movie. I think that was brilliant writing. The writing haven't always been great in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie, but that perfect writing there. Tobey Maguire his best. I love that, Kurt Connor. I really wish they did more with his character. Thing, and I love everything. Kristen Dunst is probably the one I tolerate her the most in. I think she is really good in it in this. I like the scene turning over her Toby. Joe gets in Tiger. It really puts a smile on my face. I've never seen this theater to have a smile on my face. The cheesiness for it, the humor for it, the action good, the horror scene. I know Tara bring this up. The horror scene with Dr. Octavia, they're operating on him and the tentacle killing everybody. Despite how cheesy it is, it's still a scary scene. Yeah, I wish Sam Raimi would make more movies like this. Like, I wish he did what he did put into Doctor Strange 2. I think that would have maybe helped Doctor Strange 2 a little bit more. But yeah, this is a great movie. This is by far my top 4 favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. And it go out by every time we watch it.
Hell yeah! All right, Tato, Spider-Man 2.
Yep, I have this, and I might be more on an island on this one, but for me, this is also in a tier on its own. This is the 4.5, and the 3 we're about to talk about are all 5s for me. And I think a lot of it is just the limitations of its time. There's not a lot this movie could have done better in 2004, I think. Alfred Molina, I think, is the best live action villain we have got. He's perfect. Spider-Man No More is just a fascinating arc. So that always plays for me. Raindrops keep falling on my head. The way that scene is just it's so poetic, man.
Especially the freeze frame. I love the freeze frame.
Yeah, that's a real perfect bit of Raiminess there. I'll definitely give him that one. And the horror scene, of course, don't need to say anything that's not been said about that scene. It's fantastic. If you all have not checked out Alfred Molina doing If I Were a Rich Man with the Doc Ock arms, highly recommend checking that out.
Sounds good. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man movie. It's my number 1. It's my number 1.
I know,
did you already write that down?
Wrote it down.
It's not just my favorite Spider-Man movie. I think this is maybe the best superhero film ever made. I just adore this from frame 1 to the last frame. When you get the billboard of Mary Jane Watson and then you end on her face with her hey, did I just make the right decision? It's kind of the ending like The Graduate a little bit, where they come together. They're let's do this, and then they're like, wait, was that a mistake? Kind of a deal, a little bit, and then we get a little bit more drama in the third one with that. But I just love go get 'em, Tiger. This is why I love their relationship so much. It builds so well from the first one to the second one. It's kind of like Holland and Zendaya a little bit, and theirs. I don't think Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst were actually together or anything like that, but they still, I think, have really great chemistry nonetheless. Even though they're the only ones, the only 2 I think that didn't actually, except for the animated films, that weren't actually together. But this. Chris hit one of the biggest things I wanted to say. That Aunt May speech, I think, is just one of the best speeches in any comic book film. It's just this film and that speech just really kind of captures what it means to be a hero, what it means to sacrifice, and everyone has that in them. But you are kind of the archetype, the thing that goes out and shows us, what we could become, what we could strive to, and why we shouldn't give up. You're that guy. It's kind of like Batman and the Dark Knight. It's kind of a lot of that. You are the symbol that we need right now, kind of a deal. And he's on an emotional struggle, emotional arc. He wants to be with Mary Jane. He wants to be there for her, go to her play and not be late, not have Bruce Campbell turn him away.
To be honest.
And but he's trying to find this balance of wanting to be the hero and wanting to have, everything that he wants. And it's just, it's just a great movie to show that. I love when he comes back, he, puts back on the suit, shows saves the child from the burning building. And then, when there's just so much to talk about. I love this movie. The train sequence is like one of my favorite action sequences in a superhero film. I just love how that all is shot. And then like as soon as Doc Ock like pieces out, like everything with them fighting on the train is excellent. Like them having to bend back with the thing speeding past them. All the Spider-Man moves are just so good. And then when he has to slow down the train, and then after that he almost like kills himself to stop this train, and then they pull him in, and you get the town carrying him. It's just kind of like the whole relationship between Spider-Man and the city, and just everything with that. And like you guys already touched on Doc Ock. Yeah. He's like
you want to get to him, you got to get through me and Uncle Joey. Let's go, baby.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Hey, you want one of my? We rarely talk about deleted scene. My favorite deleted scene is J. Jonah Jameson putting on Spider-Man suit, and he's just pretending to be Spider-Man in his.
That's right.
Yeah. Sorry, the Amazing Spider-Man 2. His father being alive. I forgot to bring that up earlier.
Yeah. And I also love that's true when he lets go the suit and Jonah Jameson gets it, and he's like, actually
I was wrong. He was a hero.
He's coming around to Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man steals the suit, and he's like, "You're a menace." There's just so many great stuff. I love a lot of the cameos. I love Pizza Time. Yeah. Just the whole intro is pretty great. Him coming out of the broom closet and trying to put stuff up. The comedy is just so excellent in the movie.
The elevator scene.
The elevator scene with I think Hal Sparks is the guy's name.
Yeah.
You touched on too the scene with Doc Ock in the hospital, the surgical room. That whole sequence is pure like Evil Dead 2. It's like comedy and horror mixed. And just
so campy, but it's so fun.
That's exactly what Raimi is. That's why I love him, and I think he blends the camp and the horror and the everything together in the comedy. And
can I say also my biggest complaint about the first one was done better. The extras in this movie were done a lot better. Like you're talking about the train scene where they pull him in and he looked just like the guy. He just looked just like my son. We not to tell anybody. Yeah. That's good acting for people who do extra on set compared to the first one. Like, okay, that's a random cringy line.
Yeah, definitely. Spider-Man 2 is basically a perfect sequel. I think I love it to pieces. And I went on a little long, but it's my favorite one. So I just wanted to gush about it. I fucking love that movie so much. I could watch it all the time. And Kerri. Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. This is.
You can't trash talk it.
No. I'm not going to. I think it is just an incredible movie. It's only a little bit lower than my other three, just because I kind of prefer them a little bit more slightly. But this is just an incredible film. I guess one thing we haven't talked about, or a couple things that scene where he's with Mary Jane in the cafe, and that shot with
the car coming.
That's just so iconic and so incredible. The action in this movie is so well done. The whole end sequence where Mary Jane is up in the webs, and Spider-Man's trying to save both her and it's like a bus full of kids.
It's a cable cart.
Oh, yes, the car. Yeah. It's it can't be as cliche as a bus full of kids, but
is that the first one?
Oh shit, maybe you're right.
That's the first one was the cable car.
Yeah,
the first one's the cable car.
It's all right. They're both so great.
They all blend in together.
I'm sorry.
I love the back and forth between him and her. It's a really will they won't they kind of a deal, because as soon as she's ready, he's like, no, We can't do this. And as soon as he's ready,
she engaged to be married as soon as he's ready.
Exactly.
If you've ever been down that road, man.
And that scene with the upside down kiss where she tests it on him and then she realizes it's not the same. And that's the one thing that I love too is that guy, I think he's an astronaut that she's going to marry. He's a really good guy, but that's how much she loves Peter. Is even though he's a really good guy, is not Peter.
Yeah.
Don't you do so for fun. You just
like
have someone that makes you feel like you've been struck by lightning.
Exactly. Yeah.
One last thing, I had just randomly for some reason had the soundtrack to this movie like growing up on CD. So
Dashboard Confessional.
Confessional's on it. There's like a Maroon 5 song. There's a Jet song. There's a bunch of
Raindrops.
That's not on there.
Not on there.
No, it was just like kind of like more of the poppy or pop rock music. So I'll always like have a soft spot for all of those songs and generally for the soundtrack for this movie.
I have the novelization on CD. The novelization.
Oh my god! I have the CD. Oh my god!
Yeah,
it's so cool. James, you started with this one, right?
Yeah, I did.
All right, Spider-Man 2, my favorite. Now we're going on to what, Kerri?
Number 3.
Threes. All right, Chris, what's your 3?
That's the last of the live action stuff on Spider-Man No Way Home.
All right, Tato. 3.
Honorable mention. This is where I would slot in the PS4 game. It's one of my favorite stories. I really do love it. Yuri Lowenthal might be my Peter Parker, to be just fully honest. But that said, I will say No Way Home.
And my 3 is also No Way Home.
I have a feeling.
Oh, me. Oh,
Kerri, 3.
Sorry.
Sorry,
my number 3 is Across the Spider-Verse.
All right, James. 3.
I had Spider-Man 2 at number 3.
All right, that's right. Okay.
So we can talk about No Way Home.
Talk about No Way Home. Chris.
I love this movie. This is my favorite theater going experience the last couple of years. See this in a crowded theater when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire show up and people just cheering and applauding like crazy. Were one of my favorite like fuck yeah moments in theater. Like, as someone who loved the MCU, seeing Daredevil himself, show up with like that moment, and that like made me. Me and one other person applauded that moment, and nobody else knew who he was. Like, I mean, it's just so good. I mean, what Sandman and Lizard do not well yet. That's my only kind of complaint with the movie. I bet they used those two a little bit better than the other 3. But Alfred Molina seeing Willem Dafoe at his best at Green Goblin in this movie. He was terrifying, especially when we watched. So, like, Peter punching him out, he just laughing it off.
That's so creepy, that scene.
Yeah. And like Molina at his best. Electro was used so much better in this movie. Like, this is like, even the stupid humor he had, there's some really humorous moment. Like, I guess we should have fallen into stuff. Like, J. Jonah Jameson at his best on. You guys haven't seen the longer cut version of this. There are some really funny stuff they have with J. Jonah Jameson in the longer version of this. Especially after the Electro thing with Electro, he interviewing one of the people who worked there, and he had this disbelief of what he's hearing. That's pretty funny. Like, everything. Then they at his best. That movie made me sob. Like, that's one of the few Spider-Man movies I was crying at the end. Like that, him sacrificing his happiness to protect MJ and Ned, I think is such a beautiful sacrifice moment for Spider-Man. That's who Spider-Man is to me. Like, and everything, it's so good. It's so entertaining. Aunt May's death hit me pretty hard every time we watch the movie. Like, the second best year, great power comes great responsibility. Right, she gets to say that was really powerful. And happy me. Everything in this movie was the longer cut. I also included the longer cut version here too. The longer cut version is really good. Best use of the post-credit scene. You want to feel depressed after watching the movie, watch the post-credit scene, the longer cut version, and you get the whole montage of photos of everybody on their trip, and And Peter just taking out every photo. It just, my God, I felt depressed after watching that and see the. Yeah, love this movie. Doctor Strange, amazing. I can't stress enough how much I love this movie. Just not my number one or two.
Yeah, no, perfect. Tato.
Yeah, I was just jotting down some notes. I love this movie. This is my favorite MCU movie.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a bold statement in a franchise that I love. As you know, I got to get that match from Kevin somehow. We'll talk later. But yeah, I do think Alfred Molina turns in about an equal performance, not significantly better. Probably it's shade worse, to be honest, but just because there's so much else going on that he doesn't get as much of a chance to shine as he does in Spidey 2. I do think this is Willem Dafoe at his best. I think those two guys alongside Michael Keaton are just those top tier live action villains. Just Willem Dafoe just stealing the donuts, pocketing them when he's at feast.
That's right.
It's perfect. I love all the Aunt May stuff. When Peter, when Willem Dafoe hits him with it was you who killed her, and Tom Holland just completely abandons all the flippy Spider-Man theatrics and just beats the ever-loving shit out of him. It is bananas. And then fucking, of course, you get Toby coming in and stopping him from ultimately doing that, from doing what you can't come back from and stuff. It's about curing that ass. And like just the look that Toby gives is his finest performance as this character, I think, in that moment. The suit at the end is fantastic. I love that. I cannot wait to see more of that. I hope we get to the final Spidey suit. The scene between Andrew and Max is just, you just kid, man. You got that suit. You upload 4 people. I just thought he was gonna be black. Oh man, I'm sorry. The reaction is the best. Are you in a band? All that. Peter 3 just. I'll stop quoting all the good dialogue. I'll save some quotes for y'all. But the final moment that I do want to talk about, that just like I have Misty just talking about it, man. When Andrew saves MJ is just one of the best moments in cinema. It's so perfect. God, Andrew Garfield deserves all the medals for that one. Are you okay? Yeah, are you okay? Me, dude. All right, go.
That's fun. It's fun to hear you quote it all the whole time. That's great. I love me some quotes. Yeah, No Way Home is fantastic. I also really love this one, and it's weird too because like I didn't love Homecoming or Far From Home before I watched No Way Home, and it kind of like recontextualized the whole trilogy for me and made it into a great trilogy. And I was like, oh, so it's not like a complete arc in any of these movies. It's a complete arc throughout the trilogy for him. And then he's not really Spider-Man until the end of No Way Home. Like he has to go through all that pain and stuff. You know, the first one, he decides it's not ready. Far From Home, I don't know. What the hell does he learn in Far From Home?
Trust no one.
Sure. Trust no one. You know, he's going through all these phases and learning how to become Spider-Man. And then it's not until he loses May, and then just has to go through all that pain and realize like what it truly means to, even though you want to murder somebody, you know, you are doing more damage to yourself, or as equal amount of damage to yourself, probably in that way. This baby's being adorable. So yeah, I love his decision. He doesn't even blink. As soon as Doctor Strange is trying to send everybody back to die, he's like, bro, we can't send everybody back to die. We have to like help them and stuff. And it's like, oh shit, he's actually like, this is kind of a nuanced take on the character. And I just think this is the movie that Tom Holland really comes into being Spider-Man for me. And then I also love the fact that even though Andrew Garfield rightfully lied to us for a very long time, he was in fact in the movie.
He was the werewolf.
He was the werewolf. And that's the other thing is I think most people kind of love this movie because it has, no matter who your favorite Spider-Man is, except for if it's the video game one,
or Miles Morales.
His favorite Peter Parker. Sorry,
I did say favorite Peter Parker.
The cartoon.
He's in this movie, and I love the interactions between them. Like Tato quoted the shit out of it, but like the whole that comes out of you, kind of a thing. And that's like my whole take too. Is like I talked about like not being like huge on the comics. I never thought like Peter making his own web shooters made sense. I was like, why get bitten by a spider to not have spider powers? Like that's the one thing you don't actually have. Instead, you have to make the web. I understand it's like, oh, well, because he's smart. That's why he assembles his own web shooters, and it shows his, creative whatever. But like, I've always loved, the Raimi, it's organic kind of a deal, and I love how they kind of poke fun at that, and then they're all like, "What? Out of you? Does it hurt?"
I will say even more funnier when you watch the longer cut version. They get Andrew Garfield one of the most funniest lines in the longer version.
I need to check that one out at this point for sure. And then the him not knowing what the Avengers are because that's an MCU thing, or both of them not knowing what the Avengers. Is that a band?
They're so enthusiastic. They're like, "Oh, that's great.
What is that?
Why'd you throw the bread?"
Yeah.
Oh my.
But yeah, the acting from Tom Holland in this, like I never knew if Tom Holland was an actual good actor until I saw him in Neverland. And then as soon as I saw him in that, I was like, well, there was that, and there was the scene in Infinity War when he was disappearing and stuff like that. That was pretty. God, yeah. That was pretty great. But like in this, when he's like just hit rock bottom and stuff, that is so sad, and he really sells it. Marissa Tomei's fantastic. I love the concept, all the Spider-Man 2 stuff coming out, and just Raimi, and then the Amazing Spider-Man. I love him saving Zendaya, and then I love how this ends, and it kind of turns it into a Christmas movie because there's a big Christmas tree that's swinging around. Right. And the emotional goodbye that he has with Zendaya is really great. That I love as well. So yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff in this, and it was my number 3, I believe.
Does it hurt? Not anymore.
They better make her remember in the next one. I'd be so pissed off if they don't go.
I'll disagree with you on that one. I would prefer she didn't.
Yeah.
All right, Kerri, what do you think about No Way Home?
This was my number 2. I love this movie so much. I'm trying to think of things that haven't been said. I really love the scene, at the end where, Peter and MJ are saying goodbye.
Which one? Peter 1, 2, or 3?
And she's just crying, and she's like, "You're gonna come find me, right?" And oh my god, it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah,
I can't remember if I've cried at Into the Spider-Verse, but this is definitely the Spider-Man movie that I've cried the most at because there's just so much that happens.
There's a really good Spider-Verse cry moment.
Yeah, and it's just fantastic to I love that we got all of the villains, all of the Spider-Men together. And I love how much this movie shows like the core character of Peter Parker. Like, once Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker and Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker realize that they can actually fix all the villains, they like don't really hesitate to do that and to jump in and help. I think if you had different characters and different superheroes with different drastically different personalities, it might have been different. There would have been more of an argument. But but kind of it shows kind of like this core character of Peter Parker, like his values and the sacrifices he makes, but also the wanting to help people despite what they may have done in the past. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
You guys have touched on so much of like what makes this movie really fantastic.
You touched on some other great stuff too. Yeah, perfect. James, did you talk about this one yet?
No. But you said so much already. It's pretty much this movie too. It's awesome. It is down my number 5 because there was something I think I was a little more than this. There's one small bit that I loved about this was like Marvel and like the studios like paying attention is it's a real short scene too, but it's when I think they're all about to fight the final battle, and it happens so fast, but when Electro kind of swings out or flies out, it flashes electricity at his face, and it's the same shape from the original kind of Electro mask design from like way back in the day. It's a brief second, but it just and it goes away, and I was like, that's the kind of stuff that shows me they're paying attention. Like, I love that they're like kind of coming over to put that kind of stuff in there. That kind of stuff just speaks to me a whole lot too. I love the small bits in these movies. But this is a great movie. I love it a whole lot. I think it's my favorite of the Watts trilogy. But you guys have touched upon so much of this. I'll just piggyback off you guys. It's a great film.
Yeah, like the little touches, like when he gets like knocked out by Doctor Strange, and you see the spider sense, the Peter Tingle lines above his head, and also when he defeats Doctor Strange with geometry. Okay, so now we're on to 2s.
Yes.
Tato, what's your 2?
Into.
My 2 was also Into. Kerri.
My 2 was No Way Home.
All right, James.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Chris.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Wow, almost unanimous here with our 2s Into the Spider-Verse. I think we could talk about it now.
That's bananas.
Right? All right. Wait, who started last time? Tato?
Tato, you go first.
I'll start on Into the Spider-Verse here. Yeah, I love this movie. It's my number 2. I've talked about Spider-Man 2 being like my all-time favorite of anything superhero, really. So this one is just like logically like one of the best also superhero movies, Spider-Man movies, just anything you can get. And I know I hear the arguments like, you can do it better in animation, and on some level I agree. Which is why I love pretty much everything in this movie. I don't know. It's just like a banger from like beginning to end, kind of like Spider-Man 2. So I think that actually probably make a great double feature if you just want to have like some great action heavy Spider-Man films. Into the Spider-Verse. I love Miles's arc. I love how he gets help. This is kind of like the Peter Iron Man kind of thing. I think done better here with Miles and older
Parker.
Yeah, and they're both trying to figure their shit out, and kind of helping each other along the way. The animation spectacular. Just that one sequence where when he first meets Peter and they're connected and they're just flying on the
a kid dragging a homeless person.
It's just a crazy awesome sequence. It's so weird how fucking big Kingpin is. I don't like it.
I love it.
But I think it's like it might be a comic thing. I don't know, but it's so weird. I'm like,
Saber himself.
No sense. He's not. No one can ever be that big, but it's like kind of like a bigger than life kind of thing. It's like a, something that can happen because it's an animated movie. So, but it's really funny how big he is. I remember people in the theater were kind of cracking up every time he showed up. I was like, yeah, Kingpin's really fucking huge for some reason. I guess that makes more sense than D'Onofrio, who's really not that big, just like really no muscle mass, just being super super strong. But
voiced by Lee Sniper. Ray Donovan himself did the voice of Kingpin in the animated one.
Yeah. No, he's great. I love God, I'm trying to think of like great things to say about this movie that just it's just like one that you just like sit down and just watch and it just like it's over before you know it because so incredible. I love all the villains. I love it's mainly like just like all the other spider things that come in. I love how Nick Cage as the noir Spider-Man, John Mulaney as Spider-Ham. I kind of wish they were a little bit more in the sequel because they just show up kind of briefly and it just focuses on a couple of them, which is cool. But I kind of wish they were a little bit more in the sequel because they're really fun. But I guess maybe unnecessary. I don't know.
I get the feeling they'll be back more.
Yeah, probably because that was just a part one, basically.
Yeah.
This is a pretty fantastic. Oh, the cry moment was right when he has to let Peter go back to his own timeline or whatever, Earth, and that moment when he's like finally ready to be the hero, I just think is so incredible. So yeah, I love this movie to death, and it's a banger. Kerri.
Yeah, this is my number one, and I only have it. Sorry, Chuck.
Good.
It's only I think above Across the Spider-Verse for me because I'm a big fan of having like a can you actually having like a nice ending, and Across the Spider-Verse ends on a cliffhanger, spoiler alert. And Into the Spider-Verse kind of you can watch as an independent movie, kind of without the cliffhanger, and I love a nice little happy ending. It's an incredible, like the animation is just fantastic. I love how all the different characters are, just represented so uniquely. The voice casting is absolutely perfect. The story is incredible. I don't know what, like, it's just a like amazing movie. Yeah, James, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this really struck me just as an incredible movie off the bat. I loved again. I think the storyline was so great. I was completely taken away by the animation style. Like I never kind of seen something like this before. But to like be able to combine like a good looking movie and like a well told like a good story as well, just it really blew me away. And I'm surprised that it was as good as it was, considering I thought it was just an animated like kids type thing. But it's beyond that too. I was very surprised when I came out when I saw it for the first time. It's a fantastic film.
Definitely, Chris.
Yeah, this used to be my number one for quite a while to this year. I love this film. I saw this in theater at a 8 o'clock showing, and I took my ex, but my girlfriend back in time to see this. It was just amazing. The animation, the story. You talk about the most quiet moment in the movie. And the moment that hit me every time we watch it on TV is when he tied up on the chair, his father go to the door to tell him the news about his uncle. He gave that speech, we don't get along, but I think there's sin in you, Miles. I want you to be yourself. You know, not, I love you. You don't have to answer me back. And then it leads to probably my favorite moment in any Spider-Man movie, the up danger moment where Mario takes the leap of faith off the roof and
Mm-hmm.
like I combine those two scenes together. Everyone's seen it in cinema because they both perfect back-to-back scene. And kudos to Bobby Tommy Henry, who is such underrated as he does such a great job with acting this movie as a dad. I love you, Miles. Say it back to me. Love you too. I know. Yeah, the Green Book guy, I already have a hard time announcing David Grant on there, and Trinity Moore and Miles fantastic. Jay Johnson phenomenal, and Peter Pete John.
Mahershala Ali is who you're
Yeah,
going for.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, amazing as Spider-Man Noir. We don't pitch the ballroom kids, we just dance in them. Moment like, yeah, Lady Tomlin and Aunt May, fantastic.
Yo.
My favorite Gwen Stacy, Haley Steinfeld. Like I think Dance Across the Spider-Verse, like she does phenomenal job voice acting both of them. Like this is like this. Oh, and nobody doing. No, I surprised nobody mentioned it already. The best Stanley cameo, When
Oh.
he go to buy the man, he goes, I used to know him, man. I'm going to miss him. It all refits eventually, and no refund ever. Like that sign is just like it came out right after he died. I remember just sobbing in the movie theater. That and the scene with the dad knocking the door like was a true crime moment. That movie, yeah. Oh, and the post credit scene, like as a huge Spider-Man cartoon fan, seeing that old style Spider-Man cartoon at the end put a smile on my face.
Point at me.
Yeah, my favorite Stan Lee cameo might be from Captain Marvel. Anyways, Tato.
Yeah, I know that. That's fine. Of course it is. Doop doop doop. But yeah, a couple good moments. Doop doop doop. Bagel. I was a huge fan of Bagel even before how significant it became. In what we're about to talk about. You mentioned John Mulaney. He has a lot of great comedic lines, but he also, I think, has one of the best serious lines in the film when he hits it so perfectly. You can't save everyone, Miles.
That's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing about being a superhero, Miles. You can't save everyone.
Yeah, but I did it better. I'm just messing with you. You're good, bud. But yeah, Stan, as mentioned, this was a top tier Stan. The visuals of this movie are fantastic. The surprise of this movie is fantastic, as James mentioned. You heard about this movie. It's like, okay, cool, animated Spider-Man movie. Cool. You start to see the trailers. You're like, hey, this actually looks pretty solid. I think I'm going to have a good time with this one. Then you go see the movie and you're like, how did they pull this off in just the mind, the absolute mind blow of this movie is really what puts it above No Way Home for me, because with No Way Home, you expect it. With this, you did not.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so that was Into the Spider-Verse. Now we're on to number ones.
Yep.
All right, yeah, my number one was Spider-Man 2. Kerri?
My number one was Into the Spider-Verse.
That's right. James?
Across the Spider-Verse.
Chris?
Yeah, the one that came out this year, Across the Spider-Verse.
Tato?
Across.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and start again, just because I probably have less thoughts than everyone else, because it's not my number one. It was my number two after seeing Across the Spider-Verse, and then I moved it, I believe, to my number 5. I was like, I can't put it outside of my 5 because I think it's such a good movie. But thinking about it, I was like, is it better than the first one? I was like, I'm trying to remember, there's a lot of shit going on in this movie, and I'm trying to figure out what is the core thing here, and I don't know if it really has figured out, to be honest. But I love how Miles goes into the multiverse with them. I love all the different you get so many things. It's just so much stuff going on, but it's really cool to see oh look, Spider Rex, Donald Glover.
T-Whip.
And what I do love is how this kind of opens the game, kind of how people thought the Flash might, but that wasn't so well received, but this one was. So this one's this one could open up the door for a lot of different things, merging of animation, live action. People say, animation's a medium. It's well, we can have a cross between them, Roger Rabbit style, kind of a deal going on. That's kind of what we get in here. I love how we get more from Gwen Stacy, because she is a great character in these two films. And my favorite moment was the ending. So spoiler if you haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse yet. I love how this ends on a cliffhanger, because people always reference The Empire Strikes Back as one of the big movies that had ended on a big holy shit moment, Vader is Luke's dad. That's crazy. It just ends on such a down note, only to be lifted up in the next film. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I like this more than I like Empire Strikes Back. I think the twist is cooler, because it's, I think, more unique. I mean, that one you've just heard your whole life that Vader is. It's just that doesn't hit as well for someone like us who grew
I would
up.
love to Eternal Sunshine that out of my head and be able to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I think this like twist ending was just so cool to see Miles, seeing Miles as like a potential villain, and then it's just like it's. I think this movie just asks so many more questions than it answers, but I think that's also not a bad thing because it like makes us excited for the next installment. And people are like, that is a bad thing because it's not finished. It's like Dune Part 1. It's like, well, everyone loves Dune Part 1, even though it doesn't have like a final ending. Like, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring doesn't have a final ending.
The Tower does have a final ending.
Yeah, so it's like it doesn't have to have that. It ends on a really cool cliffhanger, and the way they like draw it out with the music and just like the tension is just so cool. Yeah, so I think this with the editing, with the animation, I think this one definitely deserves some awards. I don't know if it's going to get a nom for Best Picture, although if it
Top Gun Maverick to get a nomination for Best Picture, this could get nominations.
Well, I think Top Gun Maverick is the better film personally because I adore that movie. But I will say I would not be surprised or angry if it does because I think it definitely deserves it. I'm just wondering because it's animated if it will. But yeah, Oscar talk aside, you guys can talk about Oscars if you want. But yeah, I thought this movie's incredible. I definitely owe it a rewatch because there's so much stuff that's going on. I really want to get it on like a 4K or something like that soon, just so I can like maybe watch Into and Across like back to back and just have a blast with that. So yeah, it's incredible. I want to pay attention more to Gwen's arc and her whole story because I think that's the heart of the film in this one, which is really cool because the first one was Miles, this one's Gwen. So we'll have to see what the hell the next one is, but I'm sure it'll be amazing because this one was amazing. Kerri.
Yeah, this was my number 3 just because I slightly prefer Into and No Way Home a little bit better. But that said, this is an incredible movie. I could see it going up in my ranking at some point. Having just seen this one once, it is a little bit of a detriment to it. But most of the same things I said about Into. The animation is fantastic. The story just hits so hard. I love the relationship between Miles and his parents in this movie, and between Gwen and her dad. And I love that, I love their arcs in this movie and how, especially Miles, he's trying to strike that balance that we saw, kind of in Spider-Man 2, where he's trying to do everything and he's realizing he can't, do it all and stay on top of it all and having to deal with that. I love just how this movie just expands the universe so much. It's really incredible.
Absolutely. James.
Yeah, I was pretty much completely blown away by this movie, especially with how like they continue a story like for a sequel. I think it kind of says a lot. The sequels are like I think better than the first one. I loved how Miles had like kind of navigate his life like with his parents. I thought it was funny. He was talking to his dad when he was still in the suit. And he was like, "Yeah, well, you could seek some kind of like therapy. Your generation was the ones that didn't go to therapy and act like everything was okay." I like those kind of bits, those kind of quips where those kind of jabs are pretty funny. Again, the animation is they just did another great job with. I loved seeing the New York City line in that animation style. Like that will be probably burned in my brain forever. And that's a good thing. When they're kind of hanging upside down, but you're seeing them sitting up, so the city's like kind of upside down. I love that.
That gave me so much anxiety.
Oh, and yeah.
I have like a whole weird vertigo thing. I was like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And then like the Spider Society bits were so good. I loved how they recreated the meme at each other. That was absolutely hilarious. Just the whole place. Oh yeah, they took it and ran with it. That was really funny. I like the whole when they question, the Spider-Man 2099 about like, what the whole point was, or like how can they let certain things happen. Like That was really interesting. I love the different variants of the Spider-Man that you get. The Spider-Man, I guess you get to see this time. I love getting to see that. The end of it, I almost wanted that to happen because there's been several movies in the past where you get the whole dual main actor thing going, and it doesn't work. Notably was Gemini Man with Will Smith. Spoiler for that one at the end of that one when he's fighting the guy in the mech suit, and I'm like, all right, so I'm like, if this isn't a Will Smith in the mech suit, I'm gonna be pissed, and it was, and I was pissed. It did a good job in Moon with Sam Rockwell. Oblivion was decent with Tom Cruise, where he gets the edge of the area or whatever. And it's just more Tom Cruise's. Also, there's a few others.
Do we get to talk about Parent Trap now?
But yeah, stuff like that. Like this one, I almost wanted that to be Miles as the Prowler and the universe where he ends up in. I almost wanted that, and I'm glad it did. I thought that was such a great way to do it. And the whole time when you think Spider-Gwen's trying to find him, but they're in different universes now because the spider was from a different one. So I'm in the theater no, it's the wrong one. That kind of getting that out of me. Oh my gosh, it's a fantastic Spider-Man. Hands down favorite. I know it's kind of cliche sometimes to put the most recent film at the top of your list, but this one does it for me, man. This is definitely my number one.
Yep, Chris.
This used to be my favorite movie, and now my number two. I love this movie. This is a film that I've seen twice already. I just saw it by myself. Then took my relative to go see it the second time. The animation is so breathtaking at point. My God, the Spider-Man India stuff is that whole thing, that universe is the animation style. You got freaking dope. The guy for Deadpool in this, versus Spider-Man India. Yeah, perfect. His stuff is amazing, and the humor was so well. Jason Schwartzman and Spot was phenomenal as a villain. Kind of he's this jokey villain that he just become more threatening in the movie go on. I was almost scared by him by the end of the movie. His fight scene with Miles in the beginning was very funny. The mom, the voice actress, the mom did a phenomenal job. On my favorite scene in the movie is when she given that speech. I don't let you go, but when you come back, don't let it change who you are. Be the Miles I want you to be, and it's just a beautiful scene between mother and son. I would tear you up both times we watched the film. And also the dad, when he's talking to his dad, maybe you get off his back once in a while, that little jab. It's just the writing is so good in this movie. And shout out to Shea Williams, Wellington, who for Bork Empire, who been popping up a lot in movies. He's such a good actor. We do see him again in Mission Impossible, about to come out next week. But he's such a good actor. He does a great job voicing Gwen Stacy's dad. The scene at the end when he go I get out my job for you. That's such a beautiful emotional moment in the movie that I teared up. But yeah, I cannot say enough how much. Also, nobody mentioned I did was really good at in the movie. This is probably one of his best performances I've seen him given anything. He's so good at Miguel. He is so threatening. I like the whole vampire aspect of him. And he also, understand where he's coming from. That backstory they give with him about him wanting to go have a path, but he ended up destroying the universe he decided to step into. Yeah, everything good about this. I can't wait for part 2. I hope they conclude it brilliantly, because they could be up to it, Back to the Future for and Toy Story from the best trilogy all time.
Yep, Tato.
Alrighty, I got notes. Maybe let's go. I just want to take some. So I'll just kind of spitball incoherently through these, so I save a little bit of time. Having Andy Samberg play the Nick Cage character is brilliant. He's not directly playing Spider-Man anymore, but he's playing the brooding emo guy. So that meta level of casting, which is present a billion times throughout this film.
And narrating his own scene at the end was hysterical.
For all Avatar: The Last Airbender, Avatar: Legend of Korra fans, Joaquim dos Santos is director of that. I was also director of this year. So he threw in "Do the Thing." That is a famous when Miguel says that. That's a famous Avatar line for those who are not aware. So big fun there. The Oscar thing, we can fight Pez on that one. He is Austin Pez is very much convinced that this has no chance at a Best Picture nomination. So I felt the need to fight him on that. Vulture. Let's talk about how awesome that Vulture is for a second. The thing about this movie is I went into it thinking that they couldn't surprise me again, and they did. They somehow pulled it off. I was on guard, and they swept the crap out of me. It was amazing. Love Paviter Prabhakar. He's fantastic. Spot is an amazing villain, as has been mentioned. I want to shout out to Lego Spider-Man and the 14-year-old kid who had to finish his schoolwork before he was allowed to work on the best movie of the year. Shout out to that kid.
Shout out to Mr. Chen as well.
Mrs. Chen had a great cameo here. I had fun with it. Every frame of this movie is a painting that I would hang in my house. Every single frame. That's absurd. I don't know how they took it to that whole nother level. Spider Bite's a character that worked really well for me. I loved the Dong Lover cameo. He is fantastic. The way when Miles is in that is in Earth 42, the way he's lit and his suit is purple and green again. That color work is fantastic. Doop 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 doop. I can't read my own. Oh yeah, the line he drops. I'm gonna do my own thing. Great line from Miles there. Love Gwen's story here. It's perfect. And finally, I will get to my favorite part of the film, which is Hobie fucking Brown. Spider-Punk, he does not like to be called that. He doesn't believe in labels. So perfect. Daniel Kaluuya, my goodness, man. Perfect. Hopefully, I don't know, man. He should get an Oscar nod for that performance. That one, I do admit, is a bit out of pocket.
Also, Tato, you agree with me? Shout out to PS4 Spider-Man showing up in this.
Yes.
And my favorite Spider-Man cartoon, Spectacular Spider-Man, show up, and he have a line in this.
So many great spiders. We got the cowboy. Does the horse really need a mask? Yeah. I could gush on and on and on, but I will let this one go.
Also, you want to talk about audience? When the movie ended, the first time I saw it, people applauded the ending. Second time I saw it, people were like, "What? Oh, come on!" Somebody said out loud in my theater.
Great point, Chris. Great theater experience. Tato, I get it. I love gushing about movies I love as well. There's a lot of spider love here. So many great films. A lot of people loving the new Across. For me, I think it just has more of a chance to grow on me as I rewatch it because it's just such a fun watch. Spider-Man 2 is just, for me, is just one that has always stuck with me. I don't think anything's ever going to top it, but we'll see. We got other Spider-Man movies coming out and a lot of great stuff with this animated franchise. That's fantastic. Kerri, do we have a consensus of a final ranking?
Yeah, we do.
All right. Let me guess. Morbius is 13.
Well, Morbius is in last place. But we're going to start at number 9 because there is a 4-way tie and a 2-way tie in these. So at number 9 in last place is Morbius. That was unanimously the worst Spider-Man universe movie. At number 8 was Spider-Man 3. At number 7, 4-way tie between both Amazing Spider-Man movies and both Venom movies. All on the same level.
That's cool.
At number 6 was Far From Home. At number 5, Homecoming. At number 4, Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi. At number 3, tied for number 3, Spider-Man 2 and No Way Home.
That crushes.
Wow.
And then at number 2 actually is Across the Spider-Verse, and at number 1 is Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, interesting.
Because Chad and I had Across ranked a little bit lower, but we all had Into the Spider-Verse in at least our top 2. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I do think it's a little bit of a recency bias with our top 2, but that's okay. It is what it is. We all love these movies, especially those top 3 are fucking bangers. Hell yeah, dude. We did it. Thank you guys so much for being on this episode. Chris, Tato, first timers here for you ranking with me. They were great guests. Kerri's been here before, and James and I are usually always on here. Kerri as well, but had a great time. Any last Spidey words? No. Okay.
Bagel.
Until the next time, we'll be out ranking some other stuff at some point. We got Mission Impossible and Indy coming up soon, so those will be fun. I'm trying to think of just like and subscribe. We'll keep watching our videos. We got a lot out there.
Do you guys have any plugs? Anything?
Oh yeah, any plugs?
Yeah, you can find me on Saturday. I did be on TMT After Dark talking about Indiana Jones on the spoiler talk.
Movie Battleground, check me out. Check me and Diaz out. We'll have a match coming up shortly. Lights Out Trivia. Hopefully I'll be the champion there by the time this drops, but I will look like a real tool bag if I am not. Willing to lay down that risk. We'll see how it goes tonight. That's actually in 25 minutes. Let's go. Yep. Over at Henry's Places, confidential live confidential action, and confidential movie talk, I believe. I don't know, man. You never know with that guy. And ASAT, check out JPO's stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Kerri. I keep forgetting to ask for plugs. So yeah, like and subscribe and check out all the other videos that we have. We have a lot of great stuff out there. I think this is our 19th video, so we're gonna keep on ranking. And oh shit, are you ranking with me?
Yes.